listening to Bitilo with Mfali Fadera. You're listening to Bitilo with Mfali Fadera. You're listening to Bitilo with Mfali Fadera.
Assalamu alaikum mbadi lamay lalu ngali konton ngali bismillah na Bitilo kibaro ti jangal nal badi malum falli federa ngali konton bi sibito januari karo tiltan nin sabola menin tiltan sabanin kilingola menin sango men kono nal badi malum falli federa atol men be moy ka radio to gambe banko kam albe moy kam Vibes FM le 106.1 FM atol men faram ben jibe kan dulal to tarinke internet auto al nim Bitilo lamu sa fali doronko al se subscribe na channel auto na subscribe ta ninga nyon tacha sifal dati akibaro lu kata fo documentary me am ko me kala ke dundi albe kala mo fololti men ba kiwaro sotla din kontan dro batala mbadi ngolu ko nga kankula nyamen dulalto nga men soto jang bi luntam bu nyaarim fulal lelmu wal keta tuba marti tuba ning esa njay tuba keta moti me alon ko karandingole mati mole me alon ko aka mamang kondironi yirikarola karola aning kukatongol men yalon ko be dendi wala aketa modi me alon kala londo lukata woto bake barate fango nyaado mandi mbabula do mandandi mol se kacha bari bi la faka men kacha ka jibe wole mu nyin CEPRASS la sauver pol ti malon ko ye wole findindi teng woketa nyin yirkarti anin koma felo me alon ko CEPRASS ya ke CEPRASS kera do ko bundati gambe banko kan men kama man wonyum fensi falla so ko ka yayle banko kono tarinke ni mole kacha ko la men alon ko wolel be dendi la miro la hamen ko momenti sako fam politiko la karola o kera fendi malon ka findita molu diamata kola wayatna fam fo nganyim molu samana mol men yalon ko la londo lukata ko do bake pour yenana nga ko kacha nga bo mole nyoto nga fo mole ay même fudi ananyum fedi fa ko ngol tuban se bulay ise molu kontom niyem konton dro botala drone sina bla kacha ko nga esan jay falan sore jam ba seren la say tuba konton dro ke ko lan sina kacha ko bismillah.
Yo, assalamu alaikum. Thank you very much Mfali pour kan samananja ning gameno li kacha kata mo ko dangol menol yalan ko ibe njibeka ndeto mutuba marelati diamatale wo ko la fay pareta. Yes, contenta bake kanajang pour ni mol se kacha nyim sobe ko la menol be kering Bitilo la menol yalan ko ye headline make and then defana multi me yalan ko when it comes to issues melala anim control studiata nyola data research political information and so on wol mu ko let me alon ko mbamante ke baake pour ni mole kacal so contanda kanajang binala kela nyin karol jabi nimbadi mol se kaca ko je nyamen drone safo nyama inshallah barka
baraka bake tuba kontandan se wota ke soto jam pour mole men yalon ko ima alon rombe mem fokam ni lokun tambilan kono menketa kunun koti kata wonyum lungol kam ni CEPRASS ye kibar kay do findindi ko nga kaliaje nyamen ala screen do akira kibar kay diti me yalon ko abe dendi menna wole mu Gambia dingol be lori nyamen politician lié political party lié politiko la karola banku do ko la karola ye wala fintindi andu ko lu men yalon ko wolel findita ja farmansata anyen CEPRASS la nyin opinion poll nyin kono so be yalon ko wala keten wodu yeme itandi BBB ning carte fin la me yalon ko kana bla ko December karo ye kemo ni ye molu menu be nyininka ro ni jabro sote ni menu tema odi yeme itande wala mu ko nin kemawle mu Gambia dingolu nin kemawle mu e ko tan sabani nani wolu kono wolu dunko president Adama Barrow e jikita ko atele be gagnela nin carte finala ko yaitani nyamen na mo tan nani nin kemo kono tan nani nin konondo wollelu ko mo kotene be gagnela wo so be kilgo nyim fanan kono naraje ko ye fenjama lel nyininka fegol men yalon ko e bebe dendi kata kabring kata fo coalition la so nyokan wala kata lanna yala maraloto anin banku do koto kata tapalayani tilimbal yala hani nyim middi people to me alon ko president kake men keda nyim banku yayote akake ni wati botala wol be keda fendi me alon ko ye moli nyininka akola tuba nyame nyimu kulati me alon ko ite a faham ya kiso soto nyina mu la do kodi memu ko ya fo nyame ka nombali jibe controlu anin fanan ke kasabe moli ke bo moli nyoto saying la feke ñin ka men brité ñu lañu sauver report jibe ya be karang mun kullel beje menu farmansate te ñin sauver results ko
barga ba kam falli so very results ning covering afindita yalon to la jang ni mol jam ba ke time wala gambe ben to nyaado 5 hours bari ni mu kuleti me yalan ko na findita drong as internet o ben ay dulal muta diamo se commencé ndebe larim fan wo wato la bari na telephone o wulita drong a miss call ol je anin commander Jamal in sobita ko he bar kule ke rim banko kande because nada sude ko nyaadon ko ning mol mel farmanse de politiko ko no wolle ba kata kan dum pri ninga diamu kabri ngaw je sobita ko la but nata mol nata report ol kinyana mo Jamal ndefo nata ta nga yir karo ke nga jubero ke report o nyina ku Jamal le farmanse de je ngalon Gambia mbe wato mento teng politiko nying abe mbe sudia ka liro be sudia kan tongo la le puru December 2020 election wala tina sove ku Jamal le fintin sove diamuta government na performance la le ni aji sove diamuta corruption na la diamuta leadership la bari mol haklo be lorin dame kambake men sudia ta carte fayola men keta atol yamira jumale be ganyela anin aliamira ko albe carte fayla jumale voter intent and also when it comes to the perception of member winner diamo siara wole to bake but sove ku Jamal le fintindi bankola maral nyato tatam effect for baro job creation the economy and so on anun tengaje ko wol fanan dia equally important do mo Jamal be nyang leadership la area la bari ku Jamal finteje yen ñinin ka minel lotanteje ak en safu dron na juber lolto je ku dol la fakale ñen jakale kuti ni nata jube ngalo nyaato do manen be dunne kono bar comment don just to bring in the surveys wala ni mol ñinin ka a job creation by the president ye jabiro menke je amam president of favor ne ñinin ka ro ke corruption na karola jabiro menke je amam president of favor ne economy jube jabiro menke amam president of favor ne ñinin ka ro ke performance on service jabiro menke je amam president of favor but men nata kenye jakale ko di wolen ko o mo kilngol le ko de president baro ijigra ko atele be winna ngo ne ñinin ne jube roke ko me yalo ngo mol se bali cartela yow pol be juba man president of favor bari itol mo kilngol na rafa ko tenke ko yaaje ko president baro be winna wodde akati ne jakal kuti bari mo dol saje ko atekele jakal kuti bari because banko fangola banko le fango mol le fango be wo nyama ku kuol setara kering mol se sotarol so do mel do menul yalon ko mol ya mira ko nyinde nabe banko kan woto nyaadon ko membi ja nyanta ka bujir baran wo mol samira ko nyaadon ko nyin abe ganyela so ko keta ne jagal ku bade ngalom kacha kono wa nimbe kuol kono fanude kan doron sitanyol kanyin ku kilingol jibe kilinke Mantere moy candidate looks like you are muted mfali
oh thank you very much abaraka ba ke keba tuba eno ñinin karol men se mako eno ka jabiri kiji domanding wala mu esa njayti nga esa njay sore jang esa kera mo di malon ko ate mu political science analyst soleti manam politiko Kenya banko kan anin dulal to tarin ke dunia kono ate la felero ning miro ning londo ning karango bedending wonyam fensi falala akera mo di malon ko ñin tembenna abala doctorate degree le karangole la jang America banko kan ay karandro ke University of the Gambia ay karawning karandro fanan ke dula ko tangol to e san kondanten se woda keso de jam lafta ke nyirinka même folo la ndamanan dun sauver fankono tuba ya dayela kule lafta le nyaado man dimmina tuba nyirinka la nyin sauver ka ke nyaadile nyirinka rol men yalon ko molu kasoro foy ni banko bele diamuta bang because ye sauver nyi ni ba fole e ka fole ko gambiano lu ko wo be mu fendi malon ko bina ko bar esa lafta re menna ite la karam mu muneti ñing sauver report kono kabri ya karam mu kullel faramansate je anun tuba fana men ñininka ni atre isem so imiro la je o be keno la nyaade le molu soto men ko njikita ko president be gagné la baro mo kilingol lel fananko e manjiko soto president wala koto ni nata corruption la economy fanna ko tan lu banku do koto ani nyaata njirwa e isa fo mo lela miro menti ngatende
baraka bake falli baraka tuba ngamiro nyinin karo nyum kumata bakele first of all ka foko sauvening in the first place meya tinna akera ngamira puruka na abebe da ko wala kono puruka je ko na democracy nying ba bambandi la nyame and of course men kumata je wolem ko mol la miralo muneti bare mol nyanda mel lon na wolem ko sauver ni opinion polls conduct firstly ka men nyinin ka men kumata je wolem munem mol la miralo ti banko la tamandir nyaato andum that cuts across democracy, looking at human rights issues, governance, right, security, job creation, the economy, and everything else, right? So we call it GB. And don't come here briefly in terms of the methodology menka use pour more opinion on say, but then ibika banko be nyinenkano nyinkol kon nata non ko be banko be nyinenkala wata manjari nga carte fa ofonke, right? Nyiseki no carte fa otide anda kam dal don ko nim ya be tabirola elafte yela durango jibe la fo akosital wala ko mansi itita yela durango beta ya be ke da kono kodi ibe mengela wala do bandina tala ya lon ko okay na durango ko sita wala ko mansi. So Soviet ke wala nyama ka mo dantan na nyinenka, but what we also call representation and of course generalizability, whether we can generalize this across the population or not, but that's something me anko tubabe do not wala mala area. Okay, the first of all me memfola wala mko Gambia non nyante ka Soviet kumandi. And until the problem of menting, nin Soviet results findita, we take them with emotions. Nkata ning, jusole la ning sako nama men favor wakajela ko no nyamambede nga do fongo je politician do fongo je ntato fola just bila nga kunun suru la nga fenko je ate ay kuma men fonfo nendiro le fomo about to CEPRASS. You understand? Because ate ajela ko metal favor ko to le mello wole mko CEPRASS be jela pour ka ito la patining pour ka doyande. You understand? Ngaje pati do fana statement o bondi ifanan ko ha banku dolu kan so vel keta jele wala aytande ko kari wala be winna bari wal manna win. Okay? Ngadol je ya fintini ko no president o ka foko president na performance ni man better compared to the other president o fana man soto. Okay. Mo la mira lola nyinti ita man any control soto over that. Ngamira men kumata nta disappointer in the political parties, especially opposition political parties la, in the sense that jama bejim kabinyin findite tariatale pour ka fintina doron ka statement o bonde andala mira loto kabinyin findita aketa nyawo nyam falbe tilikili netala falbe tilifula latala nala experts on the scene nala political strategies all soto alias kacha from the organizing secretary a campaign manager la nimu alias kacha kunu kumal pati nyun kono pour alias nyun ko study kendeke because nyun document on there soto le 75-page document le. Okay, you need to sit down, read this thoroughly from the introduction to the methodology, to the findings and everything, analysis. Alia read kendeke, alia understand munemani. Bari mojama beje ngamre moke yata emotions lela aninjuso. Now, question on yinkafoko, 46% loko, like president will win nale. Bari 49% ko, they will vote for another candidate, meaning the cartel dealer candidate dollar. Okay, and all the other issues Mel highlighted from the economy to corruption and everything else to buy Mel for ya. Moli all beje and the bay president when ya rate nyame wolem ko amantra kataka wakarola, but honey sign 46% ko is likely to win. Kufla beje ni benye ansala. Follow menti wolem ko. It shows that Gambia man issue voting sort of in political behavior kafme ko issue voting. Niko issue voting wolem molka ko lel jibe mel yalan ko ye sula ye cartel fight based on that. Okay, iko corruption ol besiari banko kan. Okay, man sakunda me ya mantara kataku ke kan. Wala security mantara betiari. Wala job creation for young people. Woto sa nga carte o fay ngani man sakunda bande nga man sakunda do samana. Ya jako okay na dinu jama lebe faka nyi baku wesilo kan. Okay? Ku mane lebe siari in society economy an ko man sakunda mantara sinna dalta kan pour ko solve. Woto nga carte o fay based on that. So nyeme itandi once more. This has been the case in the Gambia. Mbeka cartel fight based on issues. Mostly in matured political cultures. Because political culture from different stages level. They have parochial political cultures, some are developed political cultures, but some are matured political cultures, otherwise advanced democracies. Many of them cartel fight based on that. And I can take examples, even though one might disagree, but near America, for example, in 2008, Kabin Obama kana. Main issue ketamuneti economy and in kelo membenung Iraq, right? Yena kotenke in 2012 kabla kana kotenke people were so mulka issue lel jibe mel yanon ko be caring ye cartel fight based on that. But fulan nyango nyim fana so Gambia mo soto. But fulan nyango nyim fana nyanta mel lon na wole mko. Mo la fako president is likely to win doesn't mean that ibe cartel dilale. Mo selo la koko based on the because nyulka ke menti ni molbe diam le ka diamu based on the current realities. Munebe caring. So
lafta fale ne ko mbina woto le ñaata demanding andum be dinkalo fanan kono le coming ning atare kam même foko coming molu buka ajibe ko men be keri danda wala yela carte wol fay ay tara dendi wo kolla e be dendi ku ko tangol men la na ñum festival mbela fele nga du ko no ñaata demanding bari lafta le nga saba ko ma demanding tuba pour mol men yalon ko ima understand ngalo esa ya demanding o male pour ka explain munemu opinion poll ni sa follow molie in simple terms ya be sunandi molie ninko opinion poll munemu opinion poll ti
Nico opinion poll dorong is just the simple explanation of Nico opinion ila miraro. So ika menke wolen dorong ika sove kele ye mol nyininka etoli ye mine mira. So ye mine je bankola tamandir nyato ana abewol kono inara kamol nyinka eti amer jumal be winna wole wo perception of Barrow likely to win by 46%. Will be natale eti amira bankola tamandra be nyaade democracy do eti amro ko president nyata kata tamla la bam fama nyana kata eti amro leadership be nyaadi le job creation be nyaade so molla miraro ni ko opinion poll ika molle ta different people from different areas yela miraro nyininka womu wala miraro let yemenul nyininka so the 1245 people yemenul survey out of the different local government areas methodology imagine kala fulo but nyininka after mba jabla but comme ka so opinion poll for molle doro wala ka molle tombo banko ka ye nyininka la miraro la kol be nyaadi la wo kono ñulla ñin sauvé kono bari nata intent fana ñinin kaw manke miraro dambat wo mu ngani yoleti ko moy ko ete ba carte fayla jumale wo nata sotoje apart from that the rest of the sauvé ngam jije wolen ko molla miraro so opinion poll be wala ñam bar jama ka ket dula ko le kante mele banko sula bake ngaji be na ñaato tabe ñaadi le carte fayo fele ndunta kono gambe dum carte fayo mu kulete mala ka humbaje bake aka mol sula mol ka findi ka ko kidimandi and so wala tana fana wo fana nada ka mol ñinin ka ila miraro do ko to nyaadil bara manda wala security fana mo very big issue in the country ye mol nyinin kala mol be sula ren do ko wala mol melutar ba ko and in so many other issues so opinion poll tata na do ka mol le tombon dulalto ye nyinin ka itol ye ko ye nyaadile so wolle ko je nyamen itol ka wala di nyim wala melbe data collect kan wolle jabiro nyin safe ni wol fana mbode je mele jabiro nyin ta ya safe isina ya jaba keso woro mole nyoto yena yela safro ke ye memira ko tar nyame ya landi wala ka report nyent
so ninkumu opinion poll abuka ke political ko da mala se keno fengo fem tele kodi
indeed asa keno fengo fentila e se mol nyin kano ko kulal bar ko nga fay banko be temeda men to yekata ko ta ma politiko man du woto mol be la moy woto bage al programme ni asa mana ja on ko la setar ko mari nyawnya bari December 2026 ba woman jam fa ko tange woni ajube do re bafal ko ni ngambulo fayin samuta no le fam so banko du molbe damento ibe hammering ka futa December ma isaje mel lafta ka baro tuje wala ya tuje mel lafta ka falen wala falen dro ko wala tina ni opinion poll ke bi imam politiko dunje ni me ke ko molta karan so fasina doro
tuba an kam même fanam je jama ni ibeni reportol kacala ni ba fale ka fale ko na reporto me tan wala ko Gambia no lu kono mo tallulu ning mo tannani kar ning kar comme ka fa nyamen ni ba fala e ka fala ko comme ñine mu Gambiano la mirodi e bu ka fa ko tol ni menu diamda jaje la fa ñini ka men these are questions that mo ka men soto do sa ko no ko ñu ko mo wuli killing mo kebe fula ye wolle
ni lulo ha
kanani nim feng so wo mo wuli killing keme fula Gambia la population mo 1 million 2-3 million tisai ibe mo wuli killing mo keme fula tanu la nyaadi le ye diamu mo million fula mo keme million sabato yala
aka keno le ni njubenta nte futala mo million sabato be dana damento wala to le mem for in their research methodology wala ko il have to keep the survey to only the potential voters meli alon ko science dol voters card be bulle se carte final dol be je me alon ko ibe 17 point something years isanjo se futa no sanje tanin sele e se sino carte final le will be da be nyun ko kono so yeah keep to the voter population right now voter population mu 962,000 I believe 157 wole be je but mol baby jigirin ko to nyalen wo data nyinga abe kafula domande ne bari sa kabo 2021 kabo registration okera mo jamal melbe nun 13 years onward or so nim 5 years la fata wol sanjoka wol base 18 years so no bar wol fanan kono mo dol be je mele alan ko alana de min jiodo ya wol fanan tata so ku jamal so da bari jikita mena wolen voter population be rise lale to a possible 1 million ning ayata ko the 962 157 IECMND molla ning ayata ko abe lari wala nyama woto be jikila ko zafutano 1 million plus le barka ka jabiro ka drong ikadamen fo mo se mo will killing keme fula tanan ani lulu tano nyaadi le ye ta ye mol ye o londi mol sin noto mol melalam ka tata asudiata for 1 million na woga nyame bo mo academic standards ladi academic la standards in science and survey science welcome it and the ko ning ayatara ko ilafta ka sauver ke kamol nyininga amanjarieta ye dunya be nyininga wala amanjarieta sate be nyininga ese mol dantanul tanole ye dol bondi west coast ye dol bondi km ye dol bondi lrr ye na ye tombong yaji be population obe lari nyame wolen ko je west coast tundo de eto lesiata bake oto nimba atala ke mo sidlar maybe se tan sabani lul tano jele na obara je km se mon tano to lrr le do ato do manin se tan tano to le pour ka e for representative sampling woni musol nin kewol bel nyame population no kono kawol be yirka jele yaaje ko musol de to le siara kewol to nimbe sauver kala alnga kata musol le siya kata mbi kewol tije yo kol beta ya hayma ya study yena yela sampling ke niyo sampling ke ning ayatar ko isu membe banko kan mol be baaje kan ni nyakili ngolla ning ayatar ko ite sauver menke ima mistake ko soto ela saferol ta ni la control to e ko foko representative woto ni mo dantam findita nang e kamen fo alnga karnyol ki amanjere mbeta so abe kelo ko yekumol dugol ni mo dantam fintane nata diamu nyulul to yala woto nin kol bebe laari nga nyama if malo science and economics ko if all other factors are constant nin kol bebe laari nga nyama woto wolen ko wol se diam no wol to nyalal wala na is an academic standard wala na ni science jube and mathematics and survey science ka même fo ko wolen ko the bigger the sample size the lesser the margin of error. More siata nyaming margin of error ka doya wole nyama. The margin of error wolen ko is a more than tantanole inyulta ye represental. But ne election of fango jube election ma nkatara diam ka meno kola atema margin of error soto. Ni aja ma margin of error soto wolen ko in election, nobody represents a second person. Your vote is your vote. You are voting for yourself. In survey, the sample is a representation of the population. What do as a keno the realities are being represented. What do those have but the issue of taking a small sample out of the lot is an academic consideration. But in reality, nobody speaks for another person at the poll. Everybody speaks for yourself through your vote. So as a keno, for them. You can take a 1,245 people to represent a population of 1 million. But given co, you are doing it rightly. Given co, it is representative. Given co, it is reflective of what is the current realities in a society. Aka kenola, but amanjari ye dunia base in the ye nyinin kala. But wala tana kaje wati dol so vel se finti diamol yefo nin karte fayo keta poli beka na killing. Scientists all call for predicting a wrong winner versus the right one or a prediction on scale. Nin safu no le ko kare da be win na le o man jari sauver la fa mo be se sinu ya fa kare be win ba nin sauver keta ye number safe ye hirkaro ke ye haymaro ke nin karte fayo na ta tambi fami da mo sina e karnyol de ye nyina landi on scale and on percentage al nga jibe bam fol keta famanke. So to answer your question again, yes, representation can be done but aka koleal en se dunno ko ko no le fa ngawol fa nan firin kayta ni muna na modol bi ke fanjenoji.
Okay. Esa ninko represent why is this important to have new opinion polling? Ay mun nafala soto banko e do se si ya foko nyibendol nafala munela.
Anafa wartale ya jele opinion polls ka menke in the first place aka mel fangolo makoy mostly aka politician lal fang makoy to have an idea mune se keno mbedun kanye election o menkon. So new opinion polls keta aka politician marko inole ya long more la miralo be nyadi with regards to issues happening in the country and infanan carte fewbe la nyame. But also opinion polls is important pour banko dingo de fangon ya long mune betama kan banko kan bari mo be man opportunities so pour ka diamo ntala miralo beten. but near more 1,200 and something ta in any world diameter comment to ba for nyame in terms of representation. At least mol ka lon ko isul mel banko ka isa do jaaje ko oh yara fante fanan kam mira nyamen do modo fanan ke mira wala nyam modo fanan ke mira wala do fanan ke mira wala nyam pour ka lon mol la tembe da be nyaadi le mol la position be nyaadi le isul mel be happen in banko kam. But also, surveys, opinion polls are very important in terms of strengthening democratic governance. Because sometimes, okay, kada country dol to melianan ko maybe dictatorship la beje. Nyul dol beje be call alafang in the first place. Itine ka mon nyinin kay la mira rola ka fa be karto di la jumala te karto di la jumala. But opinion polls in democratic settings mol ka opportunities ro pour ka diamo ka fa nyinin ne be kere. In dictatorships Ningen Soviet C5 for example during ya jame time modu da nyi Soviet kondo ge kere ka fa ko mo jama ko malafi ya jame la wala ba amandra corruption of enka katengan all that. So mostly nyinka communal democracy lelto and aka mejitandi wala ko at least the political space is liberalized, fundamental rights when it comes to freedom of expression is also protected. So Soviet opinion polls themselves are also indications of advancement in protecting fundamental rights such as freedom of expression in a democracy. So wakumata baken. And most importantly, coming on memphon, opinion polls can mengitandi mola ka opportunity di mola le pour mola ya long mon bekerim banko, but also even man sakuna fanga ka opportunity no pour ka lonko nyin kukare ni nyin kukar le bekeri maybe ka kodo long e be ka kodo long wale tol samira kombe kata ko ke kan nyin karola le watara le nasida soto jele maybe te amira kombe corruption o kele kan na nyaman ban ni na te diamuta mola ya ko okay no corruption o mantra kela kanya mola mira roto e mantra simfadal ta ke nyanta meltala pour ka je ko corruption o kele. So it's even good for the development of the country because it's an opportunity pour man sakunda e molu moy because e kajere wato do ko konkata nationwide tolela but on nationwide to e ka futa dollar to man ko be ka futa mol fanam bima and mobe be ka diamu noji. So say nimmel yalan ko opinion polls muta e ka foko opinion polls ha e be ka diam mobe e man de nyinin kay man nyinin kay mo wili kin damala nyinin ka wada say nationwide to me yalan ko politician ol kake e ka foko and wo opposition on incumbent build kata tola banko kan e ka foko data banko kan nga banko yaale bar Gambia non man kontan but ndiko Gambia non man kontan ite mo kilim fula saba wala diam da badigo mo kilim fula saba wala diam da kiyam mo kilim fula saba wala diam da basse banjul fanan KMC fanan wala diam de koko ndol man kontan ko kata nyamen ite nate koko Gambia non ko banko mandara ka nyama ko mandara ka nyama bari modo safo non ko nde esase janga fa ko imande nyinin kade. So about yalo nyaaji le ko ndelam opinion mu nyinati bari e ka modan daneta ya je ko molbe diamu kan nyin karol la bake den e koko ko mantata ta ka nyama nyin nyin nganta kala opposition ko kere man sakuna fanan kata tolale pare ko mole ko ndara bari bule ndara kiyanne comme ngaji president la last to malon fatelem fo jumalen one of them ko itolien banko be yayle fo pareta moteje mem diamu da corruption woto waytan la ko corruption is not an issue in the Gambia. But more than what the million on only meeting will attend, or the diameter platform or the body man fem for corruption or carol. So Ibo use no lanyadi the Puruka for Gambian or man issues or corruption. So need our use without any scientific academic standard or methodological rigor, Puruka Jeko, Mola opinion, but in Dol Tata is scientific methodology use. Puruka item to Mola Mirror Muneti. Yeko Ibo doubt la, but it ain't no doubt la. Again, come and focam. Eko bela dura ngo jibela fa ko sitale ebe do man natal bara hani tan loptano to bi falli ko man kende ale man balo understand eko ko nangela malaria test amanke be yelo bele bonde balo ko no ya fako okay nga jibe fu malaria be je fata ye ebe dandan ne bondila ni do man dim bondi yaje ko malaria be je afako o malaria be ijato ko no e man tra kende are so mo le nyanta ñun sifal fanam understand but generally ngam mem fo opinion polls kumata bakele mostly ndolo Gambia na keta na ma mem favor wala ka fintina ye ko moñum bay bari ñandang hakilo to la bake CEPRASS has been very consistent when it comes to their opinion polls. Okay, haninda kundingo I remember in 2017 deputy Katlefayo what time I was a graduate assistant at the university my opinion polls kele non in Talinding and also Banjul and in Bundung ni manina Bundung. So even though na margin of error waratale because ni na rajibe what time of fanana it was difficult coming to the Soviet administrator or time ola ni na student online dolbe je imam pare ka diamuno some da ko challenges from sotale eka dolje melialon ko eka ajelo ko baby community men and all that pour que la opinion because dolbe je bika understand ninka kenya tol kamera ko ni idia moto doron it over fintila and all that ha mol ba fala ko ite nyine ke ite afan and all that ndole opinion polls conducts talending na fenko nyin ndola fenko mendi mola the candidate for the UDP candidate Fatmata Jawara if I'm not nimanyina 57% of the votes na Slovenia wala diala okay but actual vote ning hakilo ba fenka either 51 or 52% something like that so na margin of error ning amo wara ka compare to other areas na melsoto like Banjul Wolto anim Bundo Kakunda so at least I idea dile but I remember kabringo Slovenia UDP call be a meeting on time moment ko fintitan ko ko university student le sauver kele ay tan ko ndol be gagnel ngamo lungo me yo fo la meeting la wuro ko mata jere mol content and all that so aka idea le dila bari ni mel fana be contest ko fana sa idea soto no ko ñin ñi be caring at least nga simfa ta pour ka je ko nga efforts pour ka je ko at least ñanta men kala ngake pour fana se ku soto no kati fa euro
Tuba comme esa ya fo nyameng dara sila sifa nya jamal beje ese banku dingol la miro nyinin kano nyameng comme esa fo nyameng meet the people to probably war is not the best example because ni dara woto ilafte mem moy ibe wala fole maybe from any political party le wodi ni dara banko yaay
ni dara la fa mem moy de bol
mando bato idingolu patio dingolu wolel be findile kan modo sa fo no le mune ani interview fata esi ye moluta ye interview mune atin moluka nying opinion so veluke in a way me alonko basically mbe nyinin kaka wala mu mune atin molka jiko so opinion so veldo is it because ika comme ni be mol men nyinin kala ike nyinin ka kullo le kono suturo kono is comme isa ka même fo ni be maybe jama ni be steering community kono be silala le kela miro fo kenebato but I guess what I'm trying to ask is mune atina nse lano opinion so vela anim fanan mun kullelu basically wala mu ha why should we
ngela question of fahamle is not much of a difference is about a response mendi kan barin komba jansala jefang ka foko why are actually opinion polls important is in the same light if I'm a politician and then I'm a head of a political party or I'm in active politics ni opinion polls findile aning ayatara ko 200 people you will interview in the Gambia 200 people remember to get to State House is a simple majority race. Now, I'm going to look at this opinion poll in the context of how am I going to win elections. This is not a electoral college, electoral votes like in the US, or even looking at a certain quality. You have to meet this. You have to meet this percentage before you become president. It is just a simple majority race. I'll say tano le fali al kungole le kanya modo e tameni modo la 2 people, 3 votes, 1 vote or so. Each is a vote. Each head is a vote. So, name was dang ani 2 votes, you'll become president. Name opinion polls find it in voter intent and also perception. To me, I will take it with all seriousness. Any other sort also. So, for example, personally, last time I applied a nanoscopic vision to the survey that came out. That is, I inspect every number that has been presented and went over it again and again to look at it through the lens of academics and see what has been missing and what should have been done. But this time around, more okay, because of the interest of time. So I'm looking at the general aspect of it and the outcome. Nimu politician woti ala nafabe damen to wolenko. Ne atata ikoko birkama area lan tenin or KM or so. Nita tata auto is it ane atata ko if you feel ko is your stronghold. Nita auto campaign nyola because opinion poll finted to give you kind of a diagnosis, to give you a kind of a heads up. Nita auto campaign nyola you can re-strategize, you can actually work towards gaining more votes in that area. Having at the back of your mind at the end of the day, it's a simple majority race. But why should people also believe in this opinion surveys? So for no nyao nyama anum fana mol fanang is their prerogative menul lata ani mol menul man sonka lala wol fanang ila right le wodi bari as a concerned person, let's say in the area of corruption and so on and so forth, Nimu government. Another government, they are doing well in leadership also. But if the opinions of the respondents are otherwise, then I think they need to double up because the voice and opinions of every citizen really matters if you are in leadership. So in the opposition area, those trying to get to State House, they also have to take it with all seriousness, improve in the areas they don't perform. And even if they perform kandame, ila dala muta ya siti kukede, ni tade la campaign yola, is a kualta, ya bambandi je kendeke, ya isafu no mol fa ko ngo. Sofe men findade e control be kumala jannede alkana mol disappointed la feka kumale albe sulare mina la ngake dol safu no le sofe men findade e control de kumala janne bari ngalon ne ko atol mun nyon tangol leti alse ku dinano people can re-strategize in different ways in their communications and so on. So to me it is important in every aspect of it. There is no need to downplay it. Neare la feka nanoscopic vision keji, then you have to be someone who is actually capable in that area to apply a certain scrutiny to know what actually went wrong. But if you are like a decision maker or someone seeking political office or in leadership, you have to be careful. Any other more I'm not happy. Then look at the direction of Yemenul Hapindi, even those that don't, so that you can have everyone on board. So it is indeed very important.
No, it is important for because asema ko no fango kalong ila nafulo fango iba marala nyame ninga atra misal fe ikumata ko nsembo wata birkamale tumando ba be ko do mendu la birkama ani be ko do dun la lament de mente alon ko sembo mo waraje ila kanunde wol ni fasal al mansiaje bebi ta kala kilinde bari esani tuba lafta nga de mente jibe wole mu atenyin sauver results sol fango ti meni alon ko nga wolleje andu lafta follow de mente wole mu one of the main issues men fintita sauver nyin kono ye moli nyin kay ko ning atras carte fo keta soma you know ibe carto file present baroni moko tan tema ibe carto file jumale you know I think malam fo albe sauver nje kane ba ngari poto nga graph menta nga aselen di santo je
baje kan yes
bota CEPRASS fo la bulu wodu yemeten wala muko eko b tuba lafta do rete nyimbo mole nyoto and then we can go into the conversation. What is this saying ni kumata ko because ye mole nyininga menna ye menu sauver Gambia dingolu wala muko b ninkate fo ke represent baroni moko ten tema kan you isa nyimbo mole nyoto kola ngana isa nyininga
member yetro come for sense ko intention to vote for the incumbent president if elections were held tomorrow. So mol intention wala molla ngani pour be carte ba dila president barola ba nin carte fayo ke sama mol melul nyula sample to the respondents sibla kemoto tan sabani nani wol koy ba kala le de bar woto mal another candidate tan nani anin kononto wol koy ba dila modolla manul ko would not vote mol beje sidla nano to wol koy de carte fayla dol ko mo sidla kononto wol koy malong and then sidla saboto wol man son ka diamude but ne ajube right now nyemem firi molye if you reflect on the 2021 elections President Barrow gagned kabo sidla at an absolute majority, I will gagner because it was more than 50%. Sidla Talul, and in Saba point something, Molka approximate to 54% near Jube, Puru control so near Kamala, is a Jube or Carola. But Nina and Nula Mirror, if this is anything to go by, and if you want to spread this across the voter population, Yajube 34% vote of President Barrow, Ala Darajo, Anim Molkobe Carrefala, Jitale, Kana would lado. But then, because the voter population, Fanan, Awaratale, Fonimbekela Fatekela, we will see that in 2026. But as far as this point is concerned, it is an area that is worth discussing because walang fananko I opposition or fana inform mena de nea that go nin Sovieto tansaba nin nani ko be carte dila barola nin mol nata kafu nyoma ane another candidate a depend on obekala jumalde ane mol kol bekala nyame what is President Barrow gagné nole in 2026 bari
Nico another candidate what are they saying?
So Nico another candidate wolenko mo kota mbari matov
mo kota mbari adama Barrow manke klindi comme ni carte la wala fulol tema
ça comme Nico ye même fo jaye be carte fa la jumale President Barrow o mo dol nin carte fa yo mu samate ngol fo tan sabani nani ko e be carte di la president la bar wotano be man ku fo men senata bar wo kono men farman sata je wolenko wol ko e ba di la dola wo Seattle wolen tannan nin konontote wol koy ba dila dol bari ba dila menne mo fo you understand wo malong so ngawol foten say ni atara let's say ko iba dila menne wo won president baro tanol de president baro man tara woto kotek iba dila menne ni atara let's say opposition forces la come together and then ñul menul jano koy ba dila modol tata diwo opposition let's say a coalition for example then which means that coalition would likely be president baro but as a kenole fanan another political party as again another political party la candidate tile ko ba dila wala and that person might not be president Barrow can be another candidate who can go on to win these are assumptions and niba suti andila right now in survey membondi until we get there the closest to president Barrow has always been UDP. So it will like us to the President Barrow and Sovel to and even in our real elections. Niman President Barrow dang ikatara koma dumandinela. So Sovel kauletandi and the realities on the ground for kauletandi. So menul kwete karte fela wolmansia.
Because there is actually another question about NPP ning party kotangolu ning atara karte fawkera you know jikobe damendo molbe karto dida menna mbina autul fana bar esa la fe nyini ngala menna ngani sauver result la me yitandi ko ni president Barrow ni mo ko londi jama be je biriye be ka fu nyoma kemo kono tanani ni kono to koy ba dila mo ko tandela bari o mo ko to ba dila menula ye menu nyininka amanke ko ibe ko ba dila mo kilingola ni nga tara nga fahama be lari wala nyama so does this mean ko ning atara bi karte fo kare soma president Barrow te gagner la bang itala mirolo munati ani la karaw munati nyin ko.
Okay, so ngama ni ndefana ba try can you la report ni read to find out Nico another candidate whether they were able to distribute 49% nying among the other candidates. Majeje probably as a taranoje anunabeje maybe semon mako but nga try la ka read mo jenunje pour ka divide ko ka foko okay the 49% nying is distributed let's say between the UDP, the UMC, the PDOIS, you know, UDP maybe a 10% less or 15%, UMC a 3% less or you know the what division you manke new worketa. Not only keta Soviet Union kono you distribute more like item the more lako. Okay, afele then we can say with certainty Gambia based on simple majority can may use President Barrow, you know, obviously based on the surveys, he's likely you know to win based on Molbe Cartel Fela Nyame. Okay, but then 34% for an incumbent. Dela mira roto fanang. Lana fan faliniaji be fanang. Ning survey fango at some point. Ning opposition liata with seriousness. Ibajele loko. Most of the indicators are working against or have worked against the president. Okay, Nina governance la Carola, you know, third term fango la Carola, economy, job creation, a lot of issues. Among president in favor. Now, yena juma be karto fa la juma le ning karto fa be kolot sama. 34%. Let's look at President Obemenkeka. And I'm not necessarily holding bricks for him, but Nina Rajiben tola election no Kenya la, Gambia la election on tolu na political Kenya from like politics of infrastructure. Wale siya tolia. You know, sakunda ka muneke kasilo doku ka kurangol dimo la, you know, anin yung kukurangol meli anonko. There are tangible developments mo se menjeno ya foko silo doku tale. Dulal me anonko man silo ina man silo soton. Wole silo soto ndolia for example you go to Ki Antankula ndolana silo soto right yeta dula doto you know wol man nana man kurango soto last time baje ko nyomi jurunku wala fanan ko kurango soto le and other places right even though ñunu mu fendeti me anon ko manke favorite and manke ko man sakunda kala wala president Barrow kala ko do use and ala nya ala do ko la nyanta ka kele ala responsibility lam pour ka ke and dun tata jela ko mo nyanda carte o fayla man sakunda ne because I see lolo doku wala fen ko ala doku la nyanda kele atole la ko do mu taxpayers money len bari mol kaaje nyame nin tol do kaaje nyame mankile ndol do saaje nyame do kaaje le ko ndal na man silo soto wala na man courant soto nim president man sakunda e courant nin silo do ko ndol be carte o dila wala so with all the happenings when it comes to infrastructural development membe ke kan silo ni kurango la karola anim fanan ko tenke opposition will be weakly nyame be disintegrate nyawo the fragmentation among the opposition which is of course a threat to democratic consolidation right yena jibe the president intention to vote for the president is 34%. I think that is a bad performance. That is alarming for the incumbent and they need to take this seriousness. Menka foko 46% comme menke je thing likely to win. Comme ga même fo be kala nyami Musa fon loko president is likely to win. because opposition mantara diaring ida male be ñoo attaque am comme ngaje ñameng niaji be fanan atala alliance is still intact abe silul doku kan here and there kurang be jana wol sa fono ko based on the current realities nte amira dal president be winnal but maybe the cartel failai modo sa foko abe winnale bala te cartel di dal because waka soto da fanan mol kata e ka fo ko party disillusionment right waka kele voter apathy yake for example niaji be yaje mela time ola modol kasi ka foko manda cartel faila because yaje me be winnal because he kajelo ko oppositional ma unite wo meta kila Gambia oppositional ma unite yaje me sembo sotole he's going to win kodoba bulle and all that not but woldo be jete cartel faila and wala katina woldo ka si voter apathy ka soto wala nyame bikata cartel faul so if 34% with all the happenings right now opposition kambe nyame president wala afanko infrastructural development menke and all that only 34% is saying ko ning election obe kala saman tolbe cartel dila incumbent nale wo manke male bafla manika ko nya bara manke good sign candidate for the incumbent 49% nying oppositional should take this with seriousness yaje ko okay 49% nying so for me 49% you will depend on the candidate yale ko another candidate ima define ima specify jumalen candidate nyinde so oppositional
there is another breakdown biri nyini ngaro ke wo oppositional kono There is also a breakdown of that. I saw a standard newspaper reporting on that too, but you can come in there. But standard newspaper on intention to vote for the opposition, UDP leads with 35% of respondents, followed by APRC no to alliance with 11%. PDIS will minus 8%.
Sorry, Mbadi, can you repeat that? I got 35. I start, I'm sorry.
So, Afeleja, party or independent candidate intend to vote for, if not the incumbent. So, Willemko, in the opposition areas, yes, UDP led that by 35%. Don't know, like those who don't know, is like a 14%. Then in APRC no to alliance is 11%. We have PDIS is 8%. Prefer not to say 8%. UMC here 7%. NDP, NUP will be 0. The APPA so we are 6%. GDC 4%. Even APRC itself, the Fabakari Tombonjara faction is like 3%. So opposition area, like UDP is the leader here when it comes to party independent vote.
Based on reporting,
but again,
correct me if I am wrong. 35 Kemokono, Tansabani Nani ko Badila Barola. Bari wo kema kilimo nyin kono tan nani nin kono doko ibadila mo kotanela mo men ko badila mo kotanela biri woni nyininga wolu be nga benje jang ko be bafu kanyame sala ñu reporting ki wolu fu tan nani nin kono do la kemo kono tan sabani lulu ko ibadila UDP le be nyaato woto opposition la karola is that
opposition la karola yes
I think we're getting that wrong. Okay, we're getting that wrong. So, remember, incumbent another candidate, Ibadila Jumala, Yalon Kemo Konola Wati. And 34% ko Ibadila incumbent, 49% ko Ibadila another candidate. Now, it all not a Ninkaro Kotenke. Now, manke incumbenti, party or independent candidate, Albekato Dila Jumala. But they have not specified ko or 49% Nimfoye or Leninka Meluko. Ibadila another candidate lela. Nata nunko 49% nyimmenko ibadila another candidate lela. Those were the people melianko idanda wala ya clearly in the report ko nata wala nyininka albekarte odila jumala nyim 49% okara albekarte odila jumala. Then that can be but niaji be take 35% men for them. And in 14 18 7 in fenkoten. This does not equate to 49%.
No. It doesn't. So they are separate questions. They are separate
questions.
It's more of if Barrow is not your choice. Among the opposition figures, it came work on this is fully from the 100%. So it's an independent.
Okay, thank you. I want us to be clear.
No, definitely yes. No. Funny comment. Send them along interpretation. Janjandiro kasuti ala because niko ko nimbaro ni modol mo siata menuli ala badi dol ko malong. Some people prefer not to say, but ibajela men siata barola 34%, wolem 49% wolko ibadila modol. Sena mo nyinka looking at the whole report, as in, like, fighting for corruption, job creation, all the things, the negativities, the Niajibe Kolmele Molma agree that the president is doing well in it. Namirako, Womol respondents, for example, generally you can take it ko Niko ko Sande Namanke president, I don't know Jumale. So wale opposition
thank you.
Yes,
so 35% is from it's a new question, it's a fresh question.
It's a different question. Yes, an independent.
But again, just to continue from that point, Nina Rajibe, I mean, for me, come to buy men for Gambia, simple majority like Kakaye. Hanya more than Kajeka Kilina, Ibaganyelal, right? 9% saying that they do not know. For me, that is not a small number. A simple majority context, that is not a small number. Because 9% is a huge number, right? Niajibe 2016, Jumale, I mean, Baro election with Nyadil against Jame. It was like 3-4% now or so. Was it more than that?
Baro president may win against Jame. That was about 43 and 40% less. So
43 and 39, something like that. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, 39 point something. So approximately number 43.
So this is something I think the incumbent really needs to look into. 34% saying we have the intention to vote for you if elections were held tomorrow. I don't think incumbent la Carola. But again, opposition must also understand that 35% saying that, especially for UDP, 35% saying that we will vote for UDP. That doesn't mean that. Because ngano dolbeje faham baliaka akila ko maybe sajo ko okay 35% ko be cartel file andolier 34% ko be cartel di la barola dolbeje sa miracle o 35% ning it'll level win the UDP level win compared to the 34% because 34 ko be cartel di la barola but you need to understand ko two different sets of question ning don't you come for like incumbent and another candidate, and they must specify for UDP them for Jumaleng. Then the other one is talking about oppositional damma nyokang, menan kamanke incumbent. So purmolia for harmoniama.
Tuba, in your finding, is there anywhere where it indicates that 49% over distributed in because the 49% is subset totally. Like, come 49% okono. Because I watched I interview of Dr. Hamidou Jawara from Natekewe Mendi abe wole fokan ko 49% of an biriya a breakdown ye molu nyininga inataje ko sidula jama wol kono about 34% wol ko ba dila UDP leles tanani nin saba kemo kono. So is it nyin tanani nin kono ndo ye wolleli nyininga okay atol men kal baldi la mo kote na alta di president Adama Barola wo mo kote ngolu albadi la jumala la kono bang fo ye nyininkale ye mo bele nyininga kote ke e ko ni oppositional ko albadi la men I guess mboto nga draft sama na ngo kidi I think this is the question I'm trying to we don't have a graph for that but basically that is the question.
Yes.
Is this
so yeah, so Tonyale, document Jamal Lebeji, right? I'm actually looking at the major draft report. It's actually written as a draft report. You understand? But document Jamal Lebeji, maybe in the blow Malao come follow. But in new question, na faham nyame, they are all separate questions. As a Kenwale. Wo 49% inata wo tale ya fragment again ya bondi molinyo do bari atol ko alta atol mel tadi le president wala atol ni opposition ko badi le jumal as can all present them but it is not actually clear to me. What is clear to me is that the other one is a separate question because niala percentage add I think it is actually closer to 100. So wo ba itandela ko separate question and it is not out of the 49. But you come for near problem TJ, that's also fine. There are various documents they will produce beside the main draft report. So maybe one of those documents could have the petition. But in terms of what petition you sort of right now.
Yeah, I can't also see.
Are you surprised that APRC Noto Alliance is outperforming every other opposition party except UDP?
So
when the jahal
but I don't know. Like, okay, APRC North Alliance is not a political party. It's an independent whatever. So
it's like a movement kind of.
It's like a movement kind of, yeah. So at some point it depends also, maybe, because surveying is across the country, right? So it depends also maybe the percentage about pool can damning. probably is, one of their strongholds, like Fonyi and all that. But again, Niajibe Fanan Gambia political, the dynamics, and this is since the, First Republic, coming Jawara Taimo. Ikajala sometimes political party ka emerge, a new political party ka emerge, aina and outperform existing political parties, whether it's a political party or a movement, and outperform existing political parties. Even in the 1992 presidential elections, when the late Dr. Bolondin Bojang came with Ala Party Nying and they contested election, and they were able to, outperform even Doi. For example, in 1996 election as well, NRP came. They were able to outperform Doi. Even NCP in 2001 elections, again, when they came, they were also able to do the same. So political Fenkoka imagine and the party imagine a movement, and I outperform. And I think people are even saying the same of the UMC, because they come in for UMC not a sign, and then they're able to secure 2%. Ye party Tarajane, APP Sobea, GDC, PDI as well, 1% la pull, they 2%, they were able to pull that. So for me, I don't know, but it's really, I'm surprised, to be honest, because of recent what we have seen also, no alliance la performance, even the recent by-election, Menketa Fuji, Fangotomia, and Koka, stronghold, it lost out. You understand? If you look at the local government election, council election, or Dula Dolto, Ilusta, World of Anane, and even the parliamentary election. Okay, parliamentary election, YJB win, even though, but then in a performance in compared to more can being expect akafatale. So Malong, the APRC no alliance also, there could be this factor. Niajibe in the survey, I can't remember the figures, but I think over half of the respondents said President Barrow is performing worse than Yahya Jammeh. Okay, and Ninata opinional GB. Sometimes it can be mole from individual. It can mole make after ko ya jame trajam for officer ya jame na officer. Even though I disagree with that completely, but sometimes you go to even social media platforms. Your comment section or read. You realize that a lot of people will tell you ko lafta ya jame murna wole from officer. So sometimes you talk to people randomly. It can mole jame na ko they were even. Ya Jammeh opponents so lel muti, they strongly dislike the regime of Jammeh, but dolbe je ka fe ko ya Jammeh fon fisata nyinde. So probably the Jammeh factor nying, because no alliance, APRC no alliance, of course, is Jammeh. So maybe your factor finance contribute no module sajeko, okay, APRC no to alliance is ya Jammeh, and this government is doing worse than, according to them, Itola Miraloto is doing worse than Jammeh. We believe that Jammeh from Fisata. Maybe that is a contributing factor to their performance, but it's a surprise to me. I don't know why specifically. That explain the reason why this is happening, unless maybe another research is done to find out why the no alliance is performing this way.
Okay. So ni resource flow jibe ning election okera bi e be karno dire menna kembo kono tan sabani nani ko baro bari jang yow mo kilingol nyinin kay ko alla miroro al jikita ko jumala be win la tan nani ning woro ko ibadira president adama baro la wo be keno la nyaadi de esa menu ko mbadila president baro la wolu dawa doyata katambi molu menu ko ijikita ko ibadila president baro
be win.
What's a key
How do you explain that?
Coming out that in Yamming. Ndesa sila jambi, for example. Nga foko ning election oketa bi mfali ning tuba contesta. Ndala mira loto tuba le be win. Because tuba le, opportunity soto atele the advantage of incumbency soto. Because mbeka jutu nyula advantage of incumbency in African politics, mwanya ka underestimate, right? Based on the realities, oppositional fragmentary and all that, tubala bewina. But in actual sense, maybe intenda karto dila tubala, mbadila mfalila. But I'm just being honest. Yalang Soviet fananka Kenya opinion polls model beji. It's a more because it all determined Nola as a researcher. And that is not within your control. You are not there for participant in your responding in your so participants in our life come for me and Kamantara fam. As I know well, intede mbe carte of file and will be win. But this a participant don't me and honest la for you mbe carte of file but to win. Obeka soto nole. So President Barrow likely to win. Nde amira be base rimenkan. And this is not rocket science. Mojama yenye mfenka nole. Kas dia mojama bi ka fe ko nko Barrow be win na an kanam fam batandi. Alaji be silol mel doku ka be kurangol mel fenka kan on all that. En dolwol kan konta man jike opposition la. because afanan kam me yitandi wolem ko likely to win anim molia from be carte di la dol la même manke president baroti ngamira message killing send fana wolem ko maybe mo la jiko opposition la karola wala fanan talata killing e do saje ko okay niaji be Gambia fon opposition ka kenyaji le kam mo jay na patilo doron kari killing fula saba doron wala sanje killing doron ay tay join incumbent kan ko tanke you understand eko policy difference yena ko tanke ko sign policy alignment nga politician do la ko use back policy alignment I don't even know eko use nyame but comme e ka jere mo ko sifa lelje gole siata Gambia bi mo na opposition yake doron the next minute I join incumbent kan wala dolbe je e ka jele na doron mo le fon be ka terrible so mo ka je ko ni opposition on melbe siaka ni parti melbe siaka e be mo le tora kan doron be division sama kan opposition kono wala opposition do de meli yalon ko yena comme parti be fragment especially the fragmentation ya jele UMC ibe UDP nu yena yebo jeta ye UMC fanam form you know moli wo jikila tal da jikila da mel soto opposition la carola ngamiro fon se contribute no le pour ka je ko okay to nya president Barrow is likely to win but the say be carto di la jumala that doesn't mean ko nga foko is likely to win doesn't mean na ben carto di la le so ni nata nak be carto di la jumala sa fo ko to nya den tede be carto di la Halifa Sallah la wala mbadi la Mama Kandela bari ngamira dal handi saying president Barrow win again 2021 election o yala ketale no modol beji because nga remember Halifa Sallah fo ngim programme I program do la ka fonu ko ate fango face le mol diamata yo fa after election atata dulale lo e kay ko to nyato nyantol betele yade ban niaje man carte o dilanu man la finum UDP le sorry ama UDP to fo bare ako man la finu e ko kay nako man la fi dole win bare mbe al nako you know men ka fonu ngolam ko man la fi UDP le win jama ko le fonu so modol be je mel yalon ko sa fono ko barole be winna bari ta carte o dila barola was sort of like 2021 it was a protest vote against the UDP. Most people did not voted for Barrow not because they supported Barrow but because imalla fini UDP le win so a similar scenario so fananji no janne kaje ko nyimol ka falo ko Barrow le win but in actual sense maybe ta fala dolbe je is a jikelate opposition le afako Barrow win le ande carte o diala maybe obo 34% nyinno kono but dolbe je sa ko ntede ngala ka tele be win jikita ka tele be win but nden carte o diala because ngamira mantrake so ngamira jikelate mola opposition la Carola anim fanan situation of Benjamin signed and will a discrepancy someone in terms of Jumala is likely to win and Ibe Carter de la Jumala.
Tuba, Esa, maybe I would still secret you, Esa. So saying, neither mu opposition nyaton kodi B, what let's say mu political party nyaton kodi. Ite amira, you know, what lessons should they draw from this? Ite amira nimu opposition nyaton kodi political politician o dibi ye nyaton ka ke political party la. Nyin be muna yitan dilete la andung nimu nyaton kodi. What will be even munekela going forward? I think any of you can answer this question. I'll move on.
So ngamia membe je wole mko opposition nyantanyi survey results ni welcome lale kaje ko well 46% is saying that the president is likely to win. Another 46% or even more than that or close to that says ko mbe karto di la president wala then was say I worry back was itan de ko then it's not only about likely to win but more intentional to vote. I think that's the most important thing here. But 46 is saying that he's likely to win, but 34 is saying ko mbe karto di la 49% badila modol. Now Jumalo modoti, what is the responsibility of the opposition purukaje ko yela house put in order. Jumale bekeno lo 49% nyenti or even more than that in karte faula karola in actual voting, right? So nte as an opposition leader to be because talks are there because niajibe ko tanke fandi another findings shows it's over 50%. I think a good majority says it's only an opposition coalition can unseat Barrow. If you can check through.
Yes, about 69% of people.
69%.
Of people believe that coalition is the way forward.
This shows that a significant percentage or number of Gambians believe there should be opposition coalition, right? Because what is the only way out. And ni tata wala mostly, even though for Albert Carter because I don't think there was that question if you have an opposition coalition, because another candidate left for, but that another candidate is not clear for UDP leng, for GDC leng, or whatever party leng. But not if you have an opposition coalition candidate against the incumbent, all the oppositions are united. I don't know whether maybe I could make that a suggestion probably in future. Maybe there could be that question to say, if you have an opposition coalition candidate, just one opposition, a two-way race. So, but 69% is saying opposition coalition is the way out. So that shows that opposition, or this is a clear message to them, it is time for Allah house put in order. Aliyalla difference jibalbe fanda nyameng alda malina nyokam purgaje ka contest against the president. If there's a two-way race, I think the president will really find it difficult. But in two-way race man soto, multiple way race maybe three-way race or four-way race, five-way race, I think it's really going to be difficult for the opposition. In that aspect.
Tuba, you want to come in?
Yes, no, I actually wanted to say, just few things that is happening for Kanwalenko. If you look at it in terms of perception and the vote intent, the closest to predicting a winner is the vote intent, because it's the intention that counts towards voting. In the respondents are honest in their responses. So, that is what is counted at the end, and then whoever gets the simple majority becomes the president. Perceptions don't count on the day of voting. So, it will do a genuine race in terms of job creation, corruption, economy, service performance, and leadership. These things are more reflected in the vote intent than they are reflected in the perception of Barrow winning. And I think that's the direction that the survey is taking. So the importance for the opposition, yes, this is important. Two things. One, even if opposition don't entirely believe in all the 75 pages of the report, the draft report that comes in, but this is an important element for them to take so much intelligence out of it and re-strategize again and again. The incumbent too will take a look at it in a different perspective, and they might also have to work on one or two things if they want to also strengthen their base or go on towards the, keeping the NPP government in power beyond 2026. But also, I think another important point, for back, almost like the issue of the third term, because greater majority pare puru, at least according to this survey, puru kavoko President Barrow nyanda for the effect of third term on the democracy. Third term like effect 58% said it's going to weaken our democracy. So malo ko nyingabina labana nyadila. But at the end of the day, December 2026 is the big deal, right? The big deal is that if you really believe that President Barrow should continue, then you have your vote. But if you believe otherwise, like many here, believes is going to weaken our democracy, then you have your vote and you know what to do with it.
Yeah.
Esa la kana wole fongoto nga fenja mal so mini alon ko mol nyinin kala. Even though one of the main headlines modu be nyabe lori menka wala mo okay jumale se gagné no mekarto di la menna bari nga jele fanna ko tawol fana sote mol nyinin ka menna lanno president to nyin tatam ko tuba ya fa nyaming ye mol nyinin ka doku suto baliya ko lale banko kam ila miro mu mendi je fo president ba kata kan wotole ban famantara kata kan je anim fanan time limit wala mu ko nga dango ke nyala me alon ko molu se maralo keno wo nyala la wo hapole la gambe ba banko kam ye molu nyinin kawol belale andu ne wolu bejibe for example ngata killing ni ko tatam mo tannani kemo kono tallulu nin sey buko tatam la soto balia aben na demokrasi na sindikanne alam hundikan inate ko lanno president oto ngaje ko mo jamal beje men siata wala ko imalla president wala manam man jiko sotato kemo kono tan sabani worwula wala ko iman jiko soto president oto kala do ko ke do même wala president yati so menu ko ilata la woto kemo kono tanni worolem ni na rafana ala banko ni fanko ni nafulo banko fanko nafulo ni fanko ni nafulo bunda mara nyala o kono men siata wala ko e manjiko soto abe banko fanko ni nafulo bunda mara ka nyame ya menu ko e manjiko sotato ke mo kono taworo le wodi menu ko jiko stato muwanni lulle woti so e kaje ko men mo jiko stato wala siata katambi men jiko stato bankola fanko ni naflo maranya karola so ni do ku soto bunda jibe fanam menu man jiko stato wala siata katambi men stato so la ke nyini men na esa because nga jele ko nyim fanna ko tangol beto president mantra kataka nje bake yaje bari hani bi moluko ninkato fight ninkato kate fawketa ibe kato dilate la wara iko nin ye jigo soto ko ninkate fawketa atele be gagner la eti amira nin based on nin information me alon ko ngawala soto nin karakotangol to lando la karola tatam la karola president se mune keno opposition of finance mune keno se mune karano nyindo going forward jani be futala 2026
Thank you. This is an important question. But Janimbe Nyimfola, Laftaka link Lememura Kotenke back to the findings on intention to vote for the incumbent president and another candidate if elections were held tomorrow. Because Namenjeji, and it will respond to this question partly. Niajibe 34% co-president, 49% another candidate. But Alangata by local government area distribution.
Yeah, and
that's very important
that it came. It's a great observation down
yeah, that's very important. In our local government area distribution, Banjul 47% ko badila another candidate la. About 20% ko badila president. Go to Basse 67%, a whooping 67% ko badila president la. 28% another candidate. Brekama 57 ko badila another candidate la. 25 ko president. You go to Janjambure 73%, the highest. Koi badila president wala, 16% koi badila another candidate. Kanifing 49% another candidate, then president 24%. In Kerawan 49% koi badila another candidate lala, 44% president. Kundawur 65 le koi badila president wala, another candidate 32. And Mansa Konko 58 koi badila president wala, 36 koi badila another candidate. Then the rest were also there. So near Jibe. Ndela observation the regional performance of the president will contribute significantly at 34% in a overall. Overall, yeah. Pase bole kono, you know, 67, Janjabure bole kono 73, and Kuntawur bole kono 65. Because president is able to secure the 4 regions. I have satellite Vinta Wolto in Janjambure, in Basse, in Janjambure, in Kuntawur, and also in Mansakonko. But in Inara Jibe, maybe Nico America, I have battlegrounds and all that. Nina Rajibe, Brekaman in KM region. President Mang Ganye Walto, but Niajibe found a performance at a can menna in other regions. You know, in those regions. So I believe that will contribute to 34% in Nata Nunko. Opposition will perform better in area to a president in Dangbake, come I done in other regions to Nyame. Then president wanted 34% in from Sotolano. But again, Fanang. So in those regions, Fanang, and that's why opposition they really have a big job to do in areas like Basse, Kuntawur, Janjambure, and Mansa Konko. Mansa Konko to make a Kiamu UDP la fixed deposit let. But the narrative is changing in Mansa Konko area council now, in Mansa Konko area, right? Lower River region, Ojara and Kiambe, narrative nimbe change ka wotale. So Gambia, it's important for Molio to Fananjibe local government area performance thing. President is doing well. I fought another candidate a fought, but at a lot margin in each of those areas, wale kawara dan nyulka da mena. In fact, yada mena damen to back utumu brikamality. Me along another candidate secures 57 at a 25 sort of KM 49 24 le. So infinity me along yatan loko ni me keku ninkarto fighter B. Na duda ni mekeku hani matala babino la de bari ibedu na nyola jelde it become and kind of thing. So where then local in those areas president wala performance better, but overall I think 34% is not also a good performance because wo fanang made KM ni brikama benyameng the reason among perform wolto nyameng bake compared to other regions who contributed. So ngana nyin karola nyim ko important bake and I think this should even be the most important discourse on Mulyanda Menkela. Because Ninye ko bere fudu, tatambola kono, trust in the president, economy la Carola, job creation, presidential term limit, 5 issues. These are the most important issues for me. Now, opposition on Nyanda Njelale ko, this is a clear message to them. It's a clear warning to the president. More ko 37% ko malla president wala. Only for 16% ko lata president wala. And naji be membe be ke kam banko kam. Iko be silol doku be kurango di kam molla be dulal fenka kam. You know, for dula dol be jokingly, even though I'm fair kuti, ndabu kala feka koti, modol wafala ko Dubai be sort and all that. But hanuo 16% ko mal later. I 16% da mala ko ilate la banko kam.
Banko.
37% ko mal lela. And walan no nyi mumunati ay kuja mala fudi. Wala mko maybe do ko nyita kenola wala maybe imantra banko nyin sama ka nyama anen kuja mal men yalon ko ay trust be wala kono. Ni nata economy la karola 60% wala ko economy is performing badly under your leadership. But in Kajela, sometimes the Minister of Finance or the Minister of Finance specifically, and other people in the government will come out with figures. IMF, you know, the economy is doing well. But you see, there can be economic growth without economic development. So economy say it is a mirror of economy will grow, economists, but this is simple. A, B, and C. It's a mirror of economy will grow by figures, but in terms of its reflections on the life of the people, the economic life of the people, so
60% is very important. Why is it that Ndola oppositional they cannot translate these sentiments into votes? Ninkarte fayonar. Coming yaje yaming, nyine mu banko dingol la miroti, banko kulube lari nyaming, lanno la karola, tatam, ekfankoni nafulo la karola, doku sotobalia la karola, corruption la karola, fanna kotengol. Bari hani bi, nyinkole ani nyimbatal bebe je nyama. Ngaje ko, molu menu koy ba di la president wala, wala siara. Ngaje faran ko molu menu koy jikita koy ba di la president obe gagné la, wala siara. What is the problem? Why is it that molu la nying kontan balia, molu la nying ni ko yal ning kole akoli be menu soto kan president wala karola munat na ul buka yele mano ka carte ke soti carte fayona.
Yeah, so coming after nyaming 34 ko ba di la 49 ko ta di ba di la no rakane bari yalo fana man clear. So president I think oppositional menka ke comme ngani nyame nde kabiringa I think I have to be specific. Kabiringa UDP la statement no je. Within like 2 hours or 3 hours kabiringa findisa. I think it was less than 3 hours kabiringa findisa. Well, they might have been privy to it, but in their miracle, it's important for them to they start to study. But all that sort of a statement was out. You know, we respect the survey for contending, but then, you know, voting can decide polls later. It's not opinion polls, America decide. I'm like, that's not even the argument that you should be bringing. Okay? Okay, this is simple. And then you're thinking with a statement to say, whether it's going to be a press conference or a statement or whatever, opinion polls in Catalan and I militantly, if you look at overall the economic issues or the most important issues, all made and the Gambian dingol mantra content ring, President Wala, Tamandi Nyara Bankoka. And the Nina GB Fanan 34% of the cartel file, but 49 Manga Foko, you go to cartel Badila nor a candidate. However, the responsibility meant as an opposition party, Puruka long, or 49% Ning, Ibesula in Jumala. Okay? Niko Badila Modo like Besula in Jumala. And then bringing examples of Malawi, Zambia, you know, sometimes political context can be different. So Nikobo example of Samalanang, Akanta, you are being defensive. Kaitan de Konyima, and in Soviet they can for I opposition on the form of favor than even the incumbent. Because all these issues are there, more man containing 5 issues, they are the most important issues. More man containing the president is performing bad in all these areas. More ko ila time limit level. What is wrong with the UDP or opposition parties saying, this is the voice of the Gambian people. Gambian people are saying, il after time limit level. Gambian people are interested in, you know, this time debate ni melanka be caring thing. Dolbeje maybe of course probably question on yininka but near question on yininka purka for president of farmer nina karon tantram wala nina karon tatam. Ngamira opposition party nyanta interest law fana can same CEPRASS engage. Did you ask this question? Mojella ko imalla fi president o ita tatamna. Manon fa yininka da to by sa jibe no. Ani mojella after ita tatamna. Ni woman yininka. What should be itola job the other mean the ka find out molla understand molla load la muneti tatam karola. Nina economy la karola. They are telling you they are performing, the government is performing badly. Trust as well and everything, job creation. So muna nyanda kela B purukaje ko nyimen kake fote mo na translate into votes. Messaging kumata jelen. But also B Because the first thing you do is try to come up with a statement and being defensive. Trying to do the opposition figure, a key opposition figure. Well, I cannot mention the name, but in the GDC, sorry for my language, but even saying that this is bullshit. Right? I mean, if a CEPRASS is against your party, what interest will CEPRASS have to go against your party? Instead of taking this, alienta with seriousness, alieta work on ala messaging, kaitan di mula kung kali aja de banko kam mul man la fi president wala. Woto alanga katanga nyim president obonde. Again fali, another part fanang, komen kadam men messaging karola. Nka jela even the backway issue, for example. I think the opposition is really doing badly in that area. Puro ka mul convince no be karjo soto la nyame. Now, backway, we all know this backway mostly. I mean, for me, it's beyond economic reasons, but in some cases or most cases, economic reasons and more for mando kosoto and all that. Wala ne katanyim backway. Okay, what is the opposition doing? Puro ka jepo. Nymansa kunda by 2026 mole cartel 5 based on even that backway issue. Instead, ita katara focus kamenka wolem kom. Backway, more man opportunity soto, niaje funding will be from fala, opportunity man soto. Ekatalo narrative da male push la. Now, neo narrative da ma push. For me, you are encouraging all these young people pour kanyin silota. Now, need young people in silota. Jumale betula banko kamel be cartel file. Because most of these people need that a footer. It's either your footer, well, alaman tankale to siloka. Nimmen footer ta yalo te cartel file ko tango be diaspora. Nimmen tuta siloka alaman tankala o fanante cartel file. So instead of, for me, in the opposition to know, na message in the menti. Wole mko. Backway ni aja be caring funding ke ulungal na ko dokule mantara caring. And this survey is an indication of that. In survey kaitan da loko job creation mansakunda mantara kata ko ke kanje. Yan you use as an opportunity pour katira campaign yola can you use meeting also. Nkali aja le survey findita nyine it and the job creation. And that all funding ke will be in the population of over 60% of our population, is comprised of young people. Okay, mbemen keno la wole muko ali nga wakili nga sabati 2026 ngani mansa kunda bondi rather than nga finti ngata because ni finti talte soto nola. So opposition na messaging and kala mo pour young people will convince no la nyaadile. I know it might be difficult most afo noko but document la caring ite ba fa na mo stay but opposition na job nyanda kala wole ba nyim funding ke wol soto la banko kan nyaadile ke sabati ndi jang towards 2026 election pour your cartel file because ni ñu findita simple majority lenke hani 200 votes wala 100 votes akumata len anonka mune moy mo kema fula mo kema saba mo kema nimfeng wala fata ñi silo kan ñol be kafu ñoma. I can tell you that a good number of them melkatara was silo kan cartel be bulle but will be fele be 2026 cartel file.
In fact, there was one time, I think in the month of November, more America more than 5,000 people all about Gambia.
So just look at that.
In 21 days. Tuba, lafa kejininka menna. Bide nyimbe kasabe yabe jibe. Jumalel nyanda deula, jumalel nyanda tarla sikuring. Politics, na political party kono. I think the only political party member you celebrate ka wale NPB. I don't know what you're reading into that. How these political parties should perceive these, overall numbers.
Well, first, before Mbo Jabila, as I can for Menaco, the third-term effect on democracy, the question wasn't as specific as whether Barroso drawn or not, but the third-term effect on democracy is actually pretty much closer to that. In isn't it? Instead of like being direct to Kafoko, whether Barroso should go or not as in third-term effect on democracy. Ngal wo call after nyamila dorom bari in say be put in the same light. Mfali demoto nana ndana mira ibere nyanda deuna de bari be finance call tano because ne ajibe the government the incumbent for is at down it better win. President Barrow as a coalition leader won by 43%. As an NPP alliance won by 53 point something, let's say 54% approximately. And now the projections are, at least according to these respondents, taking that as of the country, the Gambia, the voter population, will buy the 34 people who can file. So even damage ijita we dumale. So anyone in that position, even if perceptions are that you will win, perceptions don't win anyone a seat. is the votes that win you, and the closest to voting is the intention, and that is the vote intent. So that is the closest to voting, not the perception. Because as I mentioned, akasiale molka siye mira yalom president wala ay incumbency soro ay power soro ay force soro njikero kabe win, but that does not necessarily mean kombe karte failai. Ni ajibe, if anything to go by, isul menul be raised in the report. It is more reflective on the vote intent than it is on the side of the perception. So as I mean for Fanabejeli issue voting mala sort of Gambia, maybe in 2016 the issue was the security. More sila tabaka no ya jambala to appoint that coalition nada just to see him go because of the fear for people's life and so many other things. But as of now, issue voting mansia with all these things menul raised even the perception should have been Barote Ganyela, but the perception is otherwise. And then that will be left to the voters on the day of voting. Then what today? Incumbent nyanta da wunna bari opposition fana nyanta ka dewu menna ko wolen ko nitata voting because kool nyin siatale yalo ni nata 1-to-1 nyinga for if it is just two NPP or the government versus the rest of the people. It's just a two-horse race. No nada. Maybe put government you ganye abe kole ala bucket. But the oppositional fragment. We have about 20-something political parties registered in Gambia. I am so IEC they all meet the requirement. IEC is not going to endorse all of them. Akitanya reasons will be found for some people to get rejected, whatever legal or whatever considered. Aniba afle gongo mole nomination for 9 a.m. it can at 3:09, so you are rejected, just so they can have the required number of them. Because you cannot sponsor all these 21 people to be at the polls. Maybe maximum 5, 6, 4, 3 or better. So ning opposition coalition sotota against the incumbent wale be wale karte fe obe soniala wale prediction obe soniala dan ni ko momo yelo iko ba fale la boriyati wo diamo be sialal wo jama aka incumbent le favor. So ko be nyamen dal the report natale, and people have to read with it. People have to read and reason with it. You know, you don't have to agree to everything, but at least use it as a point on source of intelligence to inform your strategies going towards 2026 December elections.
And finally, I'm not sure whether there's going to be a question around this, but I'm just thinking like comparing this to the August survey by Gambia Participates. Because
in terms of the outcome.
Yeah, intersection sort of damn. One second. Let me go there quickly. Yeah. But so Nina the Jang, Nina the NGB, the perception. So believe in currently stands the best chance. It's the same as the perception. So I'm looking at both on the same screen right now. Near Jube, the belief ko Barobe win in the August survey was 31%. Near Jube, this time the perception, even though notable distinction, they are of different sample size. So we can only talk about the quality. The August survey was 1,550. So more Willie Killing Kemelulu, Talul New War, and Yindo is 1,245. Willie Killing Kemefula, Tanan and Lulu. So there are about 311 thereabouts difference, more kono. But in terms of representation, yes. Ni ibe box tick in terms of representation, yes, all these are enough samples. People should take it with all seriousness. Talk less of more than 1,000 people. But going back to that, Niajibe, President Barola perception is still there. In fact, from 31% perception to 46%, that is still a perception like we spoke about, not necessarily votes. But Nina on the other sides, let's say for UDP, leader Usenu Dabo, the perception was 12%, and now the perception is 20%. So it only increments totally. Nina in August 2025, Talib Bensouda was 18% of perception, but now UMC, we all believe he's the de facto or the default leader of UMC, even though I'm not sure if they are registered, but UMC are 2% sort of young, and Talib here, who we believe is the leader of UMC, is 18%. This might not be the case for formalities, but Mol Beka Jawol Nyamako Niko UMC mbe Talib lel. So Talib Jang 18% August, Jan 2% perception. Nidara Esam by fall, science are winning APPA so be 3% perception, Jang is 1%. This recent one is 1%. Nidara Mama Candela, GDC 1% perception for 2026. And then 2025, the perception was 3%. Nitata ilanyu order la wolbe siarine. Undecided is 29%. Wolebe jeko more be undecided wol malon. Jang refuse, don't know is about 18% refuse. So the notable ones, mole menu long, barola perception is still high, double perception nata, seleta, talib la perception jitale, mama kandela perception jitale, isafal la perception jitale. So abelari wol from August 2026.
Yeah.
August 2025 to January 2026.
Yeah, so yeah, it's important to comparative bit of comparative analysis from that. So tuba komte nata akoro sinyameng. Gambia participates.
But before you come, Tuba, UMC can member for Muko. At that time, it will make a party to follow. It can member for Wole Muko when this survey keta because ngela release tele. Wole Muko coming. I told they were just 2 months old. Do you think that changes anything?
I don't think so, because near Jube, at the end of the day, that would not count towards the survey, because at the time, let's say at the time Talib was within the UDP. Understand Talib Fanama resigned, if I resigned, I'm UDP answer. But UMC is still there. So Nico Otamo, as of now, when we follow the due process, I believe not Talib resigned Makalamuda. But if Talib is still part of the UDP, he is still part of the UDP, and he's the most associated person.
As a political leader.
Okay, as a political leader, yes. So as a political leader, man changes JJ. The question on Talib, be Nico mo UMC rek, mo buka for MC Cham, mo buka for Ibrahim Diba, mo buka for Kemo Boja, niamo UMC rek, more ka associate the Talib than any other person. So today, niani jibe, aniko NPP, iba file juman NPP, mbenga alon ko President Barole la kuntiotide, more ka associate no, Nico UDP B, because Kumam falim follow, bolka double for. So wala na jang. Usenu Dabo Yewole Safi Jang, and this other side is UDP. But we are still doing the comparison as UDP. So these two are interchangeable in terms of when people are voting and when people are making considerations and perceptions. But Abelar Wolnya Man Mira Kufalinta Odo in that case.
Yeah.
But anyway, so yeah, so I don't really see the difference. Or we just have to, like, remember, instead of press releases are important, but acknowledge what came out. Tell people you will learn from it. You will take your intelligence out of it to re-strategize, to kind of put your things, your house in order, and then move from there. And personally, I'm a political leader. I'm not going to say anything otherwise. If you are in the field of academics, you can scrutinize this through a different lens, look at certain things that you don't agree, and you can say your opinion. But for political gains, don't throw shades on this survey. Just take points, positive points out of it and go on.
Esa, probably the last question, or the, except ninga tara mon men benjibe ka warebe la moke nyin karo soto. Ngalon coalition diamo fana mbeke kanne. Bari opposition party membe Gambia e manyo moy damendo wole mu ibe sila jumale tala kaso nyokam. Dol ba fula winnable candidate, dol ba fula kon majority. Ndolel siata moko tegol binale kafu nyom kafu kang. So nyin sove la finto tumando bato ay opposition party lo nya ni sembo ay tan dile kol belari nyame gaminol be mireke la kol la nyame. Do you think this is going to be a formula? It will provide a formula abe silo wala na opposition le ka long silam nse sila jumale tano kaji ko ngaso nyoka.
Okay, Janimbodo Jabila, just to throw some light on Tuba Menfo, comparing the August survey by Gambia participants, even though Gambia participates okay, and Afanya Menfanang, there are sample size man killing, comparing it to now, me along CEPRASS Leninke. So Ninara Jibe, perception to win, Gambia participates use the figures, the political figures themselves, personality, right? Mr. Barrow, 31% he's likely to win. Mr. Dabo, 12%. And Talib, 18%. Then Nina GB, SFR, I think 3%, whatever, right? GDC, Fanang, Mama Kande, the same. So, but Nina Dola, I think CEPRASS may use one political party in NPP Alliance, 46%, UDP, 20%, UMC, 2% and the rest, 1%, whatever. So, okay, one could argue, because these are different. This one is personality and this one is party. But come to by Memphis, ndo fanam by no la Gambia political parties revolves around individuals. That's the fact. They revolve around individuals. Be Nico NRP Molka Hamad Balefo, Nico UDP ka Dabalefo, Nico NPP is President Barrow. But because for the sake of fairness, we wouldn't say okay, for the sake of fairness, therefore Kabiko UMC ibe talib lela. Because at least for now, even though UDP will make Leclerc double the candidate, but then UMC Mafo and probably NPP too.
NPP, yeah, they did go. Barrow is the candidate, yes.
Okay.
So it was until they change. Things can change, but yes, Barrow has been their confirmed candidate.
Exactly. But then, come member Jane, Nina personality level, they men crossing comparatively. Yamina more rejection of sort of personality political figures than the parties themselves. In the case of Dabo and Mr. Barrow, Niajibe Barrow, 31% is saying Barrow is likely to win. But 46% is saying that NPP alliance is likely to win. So probably, I'm just saying probably only 31% approve of Barrow. But the reason why it increased sort of to 46% is because, maybe those people just believe NPP alliance, but not necessarily Barrow. But it could also be, many answer 46% Menko is likely to win. The good number of them could be they just believe in Barrow and Taliban as NPP candidate. Yes. But it could also be coming out for Model Beje will win, but that doesn't mean that they will vote for him. Now, it was 12%. Mr. Dabo is likely to win. But Kabiya UDP in Karoke, this one you'll call UDP, I jumped up to 20%. I am thinking it could be people reject Mr. Dabo, but not necessarily UDP. As an individual, 12% is saying he's likely to win, but only up to 20% is saying UDP is likely to win. We are just talking about probabilities. Probably also, Molel Beje Melialonko Wol, Imala Mr. Dabola, Bari Ilata UDP. If UDP should bring a different candidate, maybe they believe that UDP is likely going to win. But also,
but
I want to say at this juncture,
right?
it is already confirmed. Dabo is
yes,
the flag
he's going to be the flag bearer. That's what I wanted to mention.
Understand me. Dabo is confirmed as the flag bearer.
As it stands, yeah.
Yalong be new so mole opinion polls, mole opinion odi. Ndolta fono la membe mol sondo mokono.
Indeed.
Mbika fono. Ngafal dore nyine fo. But nda fono la ko. So nka memfo. Probability lemko. Well, maybe model beje. Ilata use UDP le bari man la Mr. Dabola. Even though Mr. Dabo is confirmed as the candidate of the party, it could be also that as a kenolo kotenkeko, maybe more la trust in even Mr. Dabo and the UDP has increased, and that's why 20% is saying that UDP is likely to win. Malafok understand. Probability.
All these are likelihoods to happen.
Yes. Personality in political party in fanan. No fanan jibe kuol kono. More la intentional mente me ani answer wale me miran doltolo no because sove bekata ke nyin ka wol bela. Ata ke nyin ka specific question la yeda wo.
Specifics.
Now, Talib La Carola, 18% believe he was likely to win in 2025 August. But now, 2% is saying UMC. Come here, for fana, Nico UMC, come on for political party that revolve around individual. Molka Talib Lege. And as Ken of fana, will Melbe Coxono answer can UMC 2% yang, maybe will fana Hakilo kono Talib Lebe. But as Ken of fana, maybe Dolbeje Hakilo Mandawakan. It's all possible.
Well, yeah.
UMC side in another fana. That's one. But in the Amira fana, that performance, if we are going to judge, let's say Mbafale Loko UMC, well, 2% yang, well, it's reflective of Talib because Talib like UMC to obviously more catalog. Probably UDP effect fan contributed because the 18% was in August. I think the survey was held in June or July, whatever, and then August la revealed that Talib was still in the UDP at the time.
Indeed,
and 18% said he was likely to win. But now about a UDP, even though they argued that Ngila Moljeleko UMC signed another, but another dorong at a UMC only 2% from 18% to 2%. Ito phone lako. Now if you say, because I saw one of them UMC signed in at a model my UMC fonglong, so 2% ye doi wol mel tarajang and other parties, ye will defeat what is a good performance. But also you should be fair enough to yourself and tell us that look, Talib was in UDP Kabirako 18% sort of.
Yeah.
And now 2%. Maybe maybe the good percentage, a good number, million ko 18% ko Talib was likely to win. UDP ko lemuti. You understand? But the same about the UDP, and the performance is at 2%. So, member je more defensive about this issue simply because I'm a favor. Then I move to the question. What's it again? You're talking
Coalition.
about coalition possibility. So, for some like a controversy they create. I remember when I went to Gambia in December, no program I think 2 of them. So I was like, you see, there is no hard and fast rule. There is no one universally approved formula for opposition coalition and people must be honest to themselves. Okay, yes, in most cases, bigger party, smaller party, bigger party. I mean, it's not like you come and join them. Niko coalition of manke ko mobile like join kan. You know, we have conversations, we have discussions pro kaje ko the opposition coalition soto la nyame. But don't be careful ko, well, this party is the bigger party, the rest will come and join. You don't do that. Abaka walk o nyama. There must be conversations, there must be discussions, you know, formula put in place, you know, agreement only Gambia 2016 coalition was also, people should not forget, that was also a learning point for a lot of these opposition parties. Because coalition oketa nyaming agreement on mel sotota anana tala ba nyaming ngamiro fanang be mo jamale silendila going into a coalition, especially, and remember 2016 was in a convention led coalition led. Now, how about Nina Tasayako party-led coalition? Anyanda kila world. Yamira model be hani bala le bang based on the experience of 2016. Askeno dolte hanyina. So what I think hakil to wasila. So for there is no hard and fast rule ko. Agenda kila there is no universally approved formula ko. Opposition party ba demanding be nyanta join nolaka. But there is no universally approved formula also. Kafoko no nyanta tala conventional la nimme winter way win. In most cases, yes, and smaller parties will try to see in opposition banning and then opposition, you know, the bigger party having their candidate leading. But also it's possible based on our experience, anangata convention led, the opposition party will anangata convention led la. Certain agreements sort of melialonko aben fengala. But science situation obenyame fali. I think, to be honest, I'm just speaking my mind. Because the fact is, for example, you look at the UDP, and then you have other opposition parties, UDP, Sakoy can argument and some winnable candidate, winnable candidate, you bondiminton. Okay, Mr. Dabote win Mr. Dabo, it has been proven in the past aka UDP lead like a lose, but it has not been proven before a single opposition coalition lead la lose. Yellow one proof follow. You understand me? Gambia opposition fragmentation and the ball of 4C in the 2026 election. I might be wrong. I'm not speaking with certainty, but mbemem 4C fragmented opposition alliances lebe sotola. Now, and this has been the case. 2006, if you look at 2006, we had UDP, NRP, GPDP. NAT was PDIs, I think PPP, right? Something like that. Okay. Nina 2011, UDP, GMC, Malan Njumale, were left and 35. Then you and PDIs NRP 35 koteng. Well, a united front in 2011. 2016. We had 6 or 7 political parties and an independent candidate. But GDC was not also part of the coalition, remember, as an opposition party, which played a part significantly in Jammeh's defeat.
Okay. But Esa, saya lafe nyini kala mena. Based on ngamin long nyin survey me idandi. What is the best way to form a coalition? If you had to advise, for example.
Okay, so I think advice Bekela Menti. I don't know whether I should even call this advice or not.
But ila miro dro.
Na miro. I think it is going to be
because
hard.
UDP would also tell you we are in our right to say ninga atara mbesola nyokang. It only makes sense promo kotengole so nyolukang because sembo bendole lakara 20% as compared to the next closest is what? Is it 8% or what? 4%.
Yeah.
So it only makes sense, I don't know, from a UDP perspective or a UDP militants perspective. By far.
Yeah, no, just to give a little bit of a context. Elections held in Gambia since UDP started participating. I'm just saying this because these are the records, right? Carbon 1996, UDP never failed to hit a 100,000 votes. They never fail to hit that. They always go 100,000 plus. Nina Rafanan, the latest election results in 2021, UDP is bigger than the rest of the oppositions combined. They have 238,000 plus. The opposition, Mama Kande is third, 105,000 plus. So the Isafal is like 17,000, Doi is 32,000, the late Abdullah Jamenyo Lafengo. Nia Beka Funyoma, Emam Fuda UDP. I think these are all bases Munana UDP Kavago, Ntolbe Siari Nyame, Niatol Kafunyoma, Almanfuta and Tolma, but Alafta Puru Aliatambi. So all these things come into conversation. But Esa, you can go.
Yeah, no, so come Memfo. Come Nyameng, there's no universally approved formula, right? Ngamna yimbe tukakachale bulu. Ngam for long mostly Nidiam the UDP militant dole. Dol ka Nyameng akasone ya bakele. Alnale kafuma. It doesn't work like that. But Falang, UDP consistently has proven to be the biggest opposition party in the Gambia, hands down. Kabir in 1996 and in BTM. It can mention of cartel. In fact, even during Jawara's time, oppositional Niajibe opposition killing, because UDP in 1996 they were able to, obtain 35% of the votes compared to Yami's 55% of the votes. Jumala ko soto no time wala. Mostly NCP comments right 27% ibeka time wala. So pro opposition of 35% pool against an incumbent. I'm not sure whether the records will prove me wrong, but if I got it right, so UDP consistently has proven to be the biggest opposition party in the Gambia. And fair enough, if the UDP believes in a coalition, other parties should come, we make an arrangement me along on candidate betamina. It should be. But ngamira benyanda soto la kachala kono. And the more fanan kana jeko, ndela point mementi kana jeko, wole nyanda kela as if exactly, it's a universally approved formula. But in a kudo fanan yemfali, which is a fact, and we must talk about. I think this, anti-UDP sentiments me along ko. Asiata opposition come from konekata opposition kono meli alonko wala hajo buka 24 UDP attack doro UDP cannot do this, UDP cannot do this, and dolbe la problem they I don't know for whatever reason malam Mr. Dabo muneke dola but ngamina dolbe doron imalla falal doron for whatever reason that they have and you go samala mokam ngamol jele meli alonko inin UDP ko model be doko. I don't want to mention names, but UDP maybe whatever local government area be dokola walto model be jemian ko ni wol be dokola still they're saying that for example let's be specific in Talib's case. You talk to a lot of people, they'll tell you Talib is good but not UDP. Okay, to be fair to the party as well, B ndet mota bo ndeta bola korda ko ete enteke mo kendoti bari mbota korda min ko ni mbota mol mel bala e ko manke mo kendolti will contribute to la pour kandeke mo kendoti. So if you believe that Talib is good, he's a good leader, a political figure and all that, give credit to UDP as well. But Niko be UDP mutaleba put in the bad light, and then you single out Talib Kafoko, a better than all that. Sometimes we fananga contribute UDP ka wole fananjeko anti-UDP sentiments ya battle. To the extent that it just sonna. And funny, also another point which is also true, which is a fact. A coalition without UDP, mafoko. A third force without UDP cannot win election because simple majority lem. But it will open the race. Because UDP has the numbers. Remember, 35% is saying in this survey code, UDP 35% out of the 100% among all those opposition parties. So ngamra way mate and the wolem ko. In terms of coalition building, I will not tell them ko albe nyinekela. Exactly. Right? But ntela miraro meant in terms of coalition building. I think there should be able to be compromise among the opposition parties to also look at party me along kotonya number samano nang from their side compared to the smaller parties mele along kotol financial number add no nyinkane so that they're able to defeat the incumbent or upset the incumbent. But again, also the candidate also matters. One should be very careful. I'm not using the term winnable candidate. I'm not using that. I'm not going to use that. But at least candidate nyimfana the choice of candidate because coming a memfo 49% saying another candidate. Yala man clear Jumaling that another candidate. So if there is going to be a coalition talk, I think there should be that room purukajeko na flexible demanding in terms of Mbe Jumane Samalanang as a candidate, me alonko at least will be able to get votes from both his or her party or their party and also outside the party so that they can upset the incumbent. But at some point, Nimbe Kole Abalale, because UDP come in Dolbe lead la, and Dolbe opposition Dolbe, I can tell you one thing for free. Hanata you have 5 opposition parties or 4 opposition parties coming together with the UDP, led by, for example, Mr. Dabo, Modol Beji, Walter Sonaka join Waka. I can tell you that for free because of their personality issue, whatever with Dabo or their anti-UDP sentiments, they will not even want to be part of. So Dolbeji, Abejarle nebe loose, ebe fo, but the UDP kana tambe, which is very unfortunate, and the coalition building efforts have a compromise about affect Balala towards 2026.
Abarakabake, Esa, thank you very much indeed. Lamela Ninjibe Lalu, ngal beje, ngal tentu, ala jibelo lamela Lamorokam. Tuba, ninga kumala bambeje, belafila kamemfo, mol nyanta melonna. What people should, for example,
I'm Fali.
Yes.
Nga dole comment ako. Ako, can you tell Esa the people who are saying that are not UDP executive members? These are just ordinary supporters. But sometimes let's just be honest to each other.
But I also support a killing like a career fighter.
So sometimes you can excuse it. For example, Model BJ, they are not tolerant in the party. You go no, but you like executive ordinary people or you don't see you look for banda and nana bikajen nana maje opposite executive here na your position on this coalition talks issue. Maybe it might be there, but maje ko opposition fintinang as a party, as an executive, position on this to say well, it is not our position party by force. We are still open to talks and conversations around the possibility of a coalition, and whatever formula this will take, that will depend on future discussions. So ordinary members of the party, you don't need to hold an executive position to be influential even in a party. We've seen people that do not hold executive positions in parties, but they have influence in terms of decisions. So kumata bakele nkana jutu nyul dola because akamo dole by fanan in one way or the other.
Yeah, but at the same time also it's important to say, I think I had a discussion with Bamba Mas Kunung. So I remember because we addressed this issue. Nga kufabu ke deu ning misal fe iteka kumolu menfo ekalo nyamen kola molu katul la kumakangol ta to use it to represent UDP la view. Ala point momenti which I think makes sense is that ndega menfo, I say that in my personal capacity. Ito use nola co transpose or ka foko wole mu UDP la official party. Ako UDP has official spokespeople. So basically, I think that's the point I'm trying to make. We can understand, okay, militants here and there, they may put off people, ikamolo kamfandi party or kambala and all of those things. But I think what we need to judge the parties by is the positions, the official positions that they take. For example, I think UDP said they're open to a coalition. And I'm also aware that coalition talks will be here and there. But I think also, ning after we are going to move forward, we have to be honest. Mo be mnyante ilo dulalo na ye tembolong. Ni ilo dulalo ye tembolong. It helps you to be realistic about your approach. Ita tinano, for example, yela party your form 6 months before the carte fayo. I have been here for so many years. I've invested so much in my infrastructure. And then it turns out to be that I have the majority, or at least I have a significant number of supporters in the opposition. Number doesn't matter. I don't think it makes sense to anybody. But I think I think that is the way forward. They have to be dispassionate about this emotion bondije. Ya jibe munebe itol damma wala nafato ye kacha kola ya jibe be fenkala nyameng. But I think also this helps to know momo tembo momenti momo load la momenti. Mobe along inyanta nyinko approach the nyameng. But Tuba, I think to give you the last question, what do you think Mola nyanta munetara so seriously out of this report? And in Fanatela Miro Mol Manyanaka Munetaka overreact. What should people not overreact about in this report? Report on Yindo. Wokola, then I will see if we have 1 or 2 questions here. Anyone then Kumfa.
Yeah, so Janimbi Nala Water, Ninina, you can remind me, Esa Kufa de Muruntamen can Wallen Kachati, and Landa Farsakuo. Niaja Noto for Wallenko, Esa Kumado Fujan, the UDP sentiments and even sentiments toward other oppositions. Mote Bolano Kordakono, Ikao Ninyandi, Abotamenul Bala, Ikaol Manendia, Bawoleko, Ikaolfoko, Nico, Carmolanda Farsori, Farastamel Baladum. Talib beda nya mele ada da political to dung. So those things are important. Opposition nyanta ka sentiments bondi ye tonya for nyoye if they want to go ahead. Another thing about kachani ko na alpha follow le men fo man ko le men fo drong e ko kachatel kala randa ko fengo bondi. Pour opposition le fana ye kafuno nyoma coalition ye ta nyama nyaate be la fri wala anon tonya ba ko then fo se dung ye kacha. But wo kacha wo manya na ka tinna ye fanya ya fo nyoye ate kala no tonya tanoti de fo ni kacha be kala abibe la la tonya le kan anu membe je dron o yuri pile siara then other parties bulate noma so wala nan ka ne mo nyin ka la opinion na esa bortale ka fo ka formula di because I'm volen ko ala etapla no moli ba de nyama te kam fo don aldung ali kacha so ndere ndeni na opinion nyin ka mole nyin ka nun ko if numbers win you elections, then the party that has the greater majority should lead the way forward. I think that will be a simpler approach than someone who has a 1% chance or 1% of the voter population or even the electorate outcome. Ekebe Otala to lead a party that has about 30-something percentage. So that's actually my way forward. Ibe coalition quarter. Obviously, I'm so coalition talks will come on here and there. But also another important point, the only party of recent official election that actually beat the incumbent to popular votes is only the UDP. In the local government elections, Nina de Jibe Karoke cool be to popular votes, it only not a Katambi NPP. So any other opposition force wo membi na kava ko ntolde nga kontrol kele ntol tara la fon tamita incumbent la mantara Gambia so ni wo sembo bebe laring ite opposition party bulu pour mo lena ko be law number down play la dani baje law kotina kala tonya bari Cameroon koma drong foi se kacha ko la itola jibe bala la nyame and your question again I come for mol say kujuma letano jani manyana ka wuri menulka. Mol kana jeko I will go to the negative side. Mol kana jeko only 12:45 like interview tada. Ngamen for any other mo saba. So vediam da wole ye results bondi. Take it with all seriousness. People have to do that. Don't look at the minimum number because it's a simple majority race to state house. It does not matter the fragments. At the end of the day, momentas yada ikafunyoldi wole follow be for state house. Any more killing or more flaleng or more sabah. So it is important. People should not downplay the numbers. Numbers indeed counts. And in yanda ka menjube drum. Near the oppositional and including the incumbents, they have to look at these key issues: economy, job creation, performance of service, leadership, and even before talking about elections or so on, or even before even talking about elections. These are key important things in our democracy. These are key important things for the Gambian people. Mola services, molbe sularin kuol menulela nyantolto. Anina development kata nyato wonyanta ka mo sulale ani atara le ko e mandara ka jibe ko jumale be ganyela kata seda. So these things are very important. Everyone should have these takeaways from the survey and then they can read it with that mindset, with an open mindset. Need after to be informed on anything politically. Take this as a sample, and those who are interested can even go on to conduct other surveys on even bigger numbers and then see what the outcomes are. So I think both counts for both the opposition and the incumbent. They all have a takeaway from this.
And to answer one of the questions nga mentioned about, I think I was right, Esa, when I said the 49% subset nying. There is a subset in the 49%. The 49% nying breakdown le.
Okay.
Ye nyininka atolu 49% ol menuko ni baro ni moko ten londi albadi la menna.
Oh,
so
okay.
Albadi la men now 49% or break down into parties, and as you can see, out of that 49%, 35% says UDP, APRC Alliance 11, don't know 14, DOI 8, so in that manner. So as you can see, Hani saying, Kemokono, Tansabani Lulu Kombadi la UDP, Barolela. What tan nani nin konontoko mbadila presa Adama Barrow. What tan nani nin kononto mbadila mo kotenela. What tan nani nin kononto jamaa wolu kono ni nga tara kemelamu tan saba ni lulu ko badila UDP la. So I think that still to proves the point that clarity le samanang in terms of wo molu menuko mbadila moko den lantadila president barola ila mirobe larindamento badila men, and based on this number. But like I said again, for me the biggest shock and surprise is APRC not alliance. The fact that Hani saying it's 11%. Well,
and APRC no alliance mfali supportal be bulule so amanke ko maybe dol camera ko foni dambala amanke oti do West Coast is the biggest near stratified sampling method jube the largest sample will come from West Coast without a doubt. But then because it's a single household survey, like you can more per household based on the number target you meant to do this survey. I think Nita any phone maybe household they might do it based on popular side bedamento in West Coast. So site and the APRC Nodo Alliance 11% is significant. There are people randomly on the street they even think by Jamie should be back is better than Barrow. Some people are opposed to that opinion. But because ibajala ko kujamale kirim banko ka me alon ko amansi model fe and wala na they actually wish, especially the security side. Ningaje mo fara drong ikaje mol ka me volen ko jambele jam fata janna because jamme amanjar kudola jamme atela si state house ye press release ka dry jam jarres wo ka kujama fa ngo tenkundile because it alon ne jamme banko ka niye mo fa ko ke nate jam da men ka bo noro so mol ka wo jela mol ma usila nyaaje baroto bake wo fana ka kujamal informe so APR Noto Alliance your support base, it's not intact. There's a fragmentation, but indeed they still command some numbers.
I think this is it's important in Samanang because we look at likely to win for UDP, it was 20%. But intention to vote, come to work, for intention to vote, wala kumata, not necessarily likely to win. And if you look at intention to vote, 35% is saying ko ibe karto dila UDP lela.
Yeah,
that's a significant number. May along ko, the parties will, take advantage of. And Nina coalition talks like kumata. But you look at no to Alliance APRC 11%. Okay, so just to say, Melika Foko, for example, if you look at the UMC fund, it will come for them. They are not yet a fully registered political party. That's number one. And signing another. But no to Alliance is also not a registered political party. Right? And if you look at the likely to win, UMC was 2%. But in terms of actual voting, you're 7% out of the 100%. You understand? So for me, compared to 11% of the No to Alliance APRC, and even the APRC with 3%, I don't even know, like how did that even happen? So, ni not opposition Carola. Well, I don't know why APRC is even here because I feel like they're still part of the NPP alliance. I don't know why.
You see.
Yeah, but I guess they said other than the incumbent, I think NPP. But Esa, for me personally, I think I was really many jubilation okay. Anu many ila content bali aitendi e koronda dale. I think NPP was too hasty to sound this as a victory for them because ngaje wala nyama. But I also think UDP was very quick to dismiss this survey outcome, because Fenjamale Fintira in the survey, that in my view provides a lot of ammunition for the opposition, especially UDP. This should be a big boost for UDP la membership.
35%. That's not a small number.
Especially even if you do a head-to-head against the last survey you mentioned on Tuba. I don't know if I am reading this correctly, but it looks like UDP will the biggest winner of all of this. Is that the case? And then you tell me,
yeah, in the political arena, yes, they are winning because Niaji all candidate on Diamond, even in terms of perception, I think intent to vote and even perception to win, they are closer to state out than the rest of the opposition. But like coming to ease stuffs ahead of December 2020 would be a coalition. Will be Soniala. Will be Soniala ka incumbent challenge then you bita each for yourself.
I think exactly this is what I wanted to say. Coming out followed lanko. Yin sove mang incumbent le favor.
All
the indicators. Likely to win is telling you, unlikely to win from, let's even look at that. You can't have half of it. 50% in more sort of likely to win, even 50% from incumbent more sort of. That is not a good sign. Now, you're not actual intention to vote. You're talking about 34%. And 49 is saying that the Karjao delay. Now, you look at among the opposition or the independent, 35% is saying Cone. When I saw the UDP statement, I was like, but wait a minute. What is happening? You know, I think the Minister of Agriculture also celebrating this, and I'm like, this survey, man of read bank properly. So I talked to one of them at CEPRASS, but just leave them to live in denial. Because these things are very clear, the numbers are very clear. Oppositional survey is a boost for your morals. Favor for now exactly how to use this. But you cannot come can you do by second party dolbeje party ningo dolbeje ni anko well malafika party no because dolbeje ka kamfa wala abo party dolbeje 2% marketing you don't do that. This is an opportunity for oppositional see together ya je ko killing banko ka more mal na fim ban sakunda nyina
at least more, not to say malafi man sakunda bari man kontani banko bitaka nyame I think
banko bitaka nyame kontani economy la karola do ko la karola trust time limit discussion woli be mu fendi me anon ko mol diamu tala anu mol nata men fo wolem ko to nya de president wa kanda tele be winna bari nata be karjo fa la nyame mo jama ko manta karjo dilala. That's the fact. Imuta kotenke as an opposition, for example, UDP, they are saying 35% is saying be karjo dilala. This is a plus for the opposition. Ni ale ba use na nyame, but not necessarily can asika dismiss and kamol attack ni mol kote koko no maina kake alo kamen phone ten and all. I think it's an opportunity for them to
Tuba, I know we want to end this but I want to check y'all on statistics italam expert tijang. Are we able to compare UDP and Mensoro in the subset? Like coming oppositional la Carola. Bao ngalo ko okay Biriko President Baro ni mo kateng. President Baro 35 soto, UDP mo kateng even though among clear at that point.
Coming down, yes.
49. But in that haja oppositional kono, o 49 kono, watan nani nin kono ndol, ni ngatra wol mu kemeledi. Jamabe je tansaba nimfeng, wolo kombaji la UDP. So can you compare UDP yo number mensoro in the opposition subset to Baro and Mensoro Briko Baroni Mokering? Would that make sense, or would that mathematically what a correct nola?
No, mathematically, I mean, if you want to do the comparison, by even do takane out of the 49%, UDP tablet dialale. But what it generally shows is that if it is not NPP, it has to be UDP. A few weeks ago, in the Gambia, we have
Tuba, let me say this. Yalon 49 on Yunkono. 35 from UDP.
Yes.
Incumbent am 34 who becomes the winner now?
No, memena yalong kabribe nyinin kaka kabribe 34 nying incumbent men sort of 34 that is compared to the 49 at that place.
Right.
Yale iba compare ka wole to the 49 and meluka for don't know and all that. Let's say 49 and the rest. But say nyinga partition member wole go 49 o kono. You 35 o tana wole. Because bondi 49 all kono it compare no on the same stage. But in coming for generally men fintita wolen ko whilst perception are with NPP winning, but not at a margin me alonko can give them victory in reality. It can and it might not. Because 34 if a larger majority ko ita file will ba file me molo but another majority men ko ita file fanang will jamal ko ibadila UDP la. Now imagine if it is on a one-to-one basis, NPP fella, UDP fella B. Neither wole fanan nada in the questions, right? If it is left to, let's say, wipe out everything, it is just NPP, UDP, ba fella jumale. Near comparison ke, what time it will be a fair comparison right now. But you can 49 out of a 49, a 35 out of a 49 compared to a 34 out of 100. Yalo, what down with Yala? What down with Yala? But maybe Gambia, as an Ngalombela cross rover and you do ning presidential election nadalam party Jamal ka participate sakora menul doyata tonyala party dol doyata not the size of the person but the numbers that they command. So party dol doyata le ni na because nabota currently the incumbent then in a UDP and maybe GDC and DOI will like participate back let's say presidential election ni na from council election then you know like small ones and so on. But in party Jamal Beje menul be move from Canada and so on. Ibikeje council election, Ibikeje National Assembly election, and all these elections are important for our democracy. They are important for various positions. It's not only the presidency that spearhead the leadership of the country. Local government areas are there, and you know even the lawmaking body. So Ibeke Ntaka participate, and that will help them going forward. It's not the immediate gratification. It's not the immediate success. But dolla hamo walen kankaka president dorong. No other position, and all these are important. So it is more be fight can in all domains. You only want the presidency. Frigid iko ebina yetambi wol nyaro.
I always say that.
Badi ngolu ala baraka bake ala moy kuni maka na la jibero fanankang al bari malum falli federaning esa njay nin tuba la be jang be men jibe kan wala mu CEPRASS ni result report ri men findindi men be dendi banku dingol be lori nyameng be mire kan nyamem politico ni politician la kola banko kan ku jamal findira je report olem mo mo sa jibe la fa men karan no je ya karanje bari kali amoy nyameng na expert nga men so de jang nyine ke de la miro di nyin kodo nga mo jamal so de men ben jibe kan men fa be la miro sara kam nga do so de jang ko Omar Fofana ko nom falli UDP did not dismiss the outcome. Yes, I know you said men fini la kafoko we welcome the survey yadi but at the end of the day munefo iko it will allow opinion men to wala muko coming decisions are determined at the poll. So to me those kind of things, the tone itself, it doesn't sound like coming, you know, you receive it with optimism. Basically, I think as opposed to NPP on the other side, many along jubilate and all of that. I guess that's what I was trying to explain there. But like I said, please tell opposition we shouldn't undermine the coalition if UDP happens to lead. Yeah, so we have a lot of people meant by GB Kang. Indoko, you people should be back again. This is from Suleiman Sane, Usman Jede Woko, interesting conversation. So a lot of people by GBK Moliela Miros Reje, but ingal beja ingal tentu, Nadia Alayembe Murana Jang Korekele, Kanali, Kenyong Katasifa, Samara Nenjang, Bitilo Lemu, Nalbadi Malum Fali Federa Tuba, Aning Esa Njailem, Afelem Binafole Esa Fal. Alamat Kilo Tubiala, Alamat Kala Katani Karatula, Wassalam, Allah Baraka, Allah Baraka Baki. Thank you.